across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very, very good morning to you. Yes, it's budget day. It's finally arrived. Welcome to the show. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. I'm hoping that Rachel Reeves has got a better voice than this today. Apologies for Julia and Hartley-Brewer today. Oh, the latest sodding lurgy going around London, and there we are. But whether you are listening to me on DAB Plus Radio, on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device, it is fabulous to have your company as always. Don't forget, I've been nagging you about this all week, that the talkTV app finishes on Monday. It's moving to the Talk app. Afraid you're actually going to have to download the new Talk app, but TalkTV app will not work as of Monday, which again still blows my mind, is December. So if you want to carry on listening to your favourite shows, your favourite podcasts, all you have to do is download the Talk app, which you manage the Talk TV app. I'm pretty sure you can manage the Talk app as well. So it'd be great to keep you listening to that. Coming up in this hour, we are going to be talking about the budget, which comes up in 2.5 or so hours' time. Rachel Reeves is going to target workers, savers and pensioners in her budget. Pretty much everyone else, aiming to convince the public that tax rises are fair and necessary as she attempts to fill a £30 billion black hole in public finances, while prioritising, bizarrely, more spending on welfare, including scrapping the 2-child benefit cap. Now, the Chancellor's measures are said to include a further 2-year freeze on income tax thresholds until 2030. That will hit millions of workers and pensioners. There's also a tax raid on pension contributions. Combined tax rises will leave a middle-class family with 2 earners facing a £1,600 hit, which is a bit weird given that the Labour Party manifesto promised not to hit ordinary working families with more taxes. Other measures, including reducing the amount of money that can be taxed can be saved tax-free each year in a cash ISA from 20 grand to £12,000, and plenty more measures besides. A big concern today about the massive increase in the living wage and indeed the minimum wage, which is those under 21, particularly for 18 to 20-year-olds, at 8.5% rise, which is just quite simply going to cost jobs. So, if you're just about starting on your working life, trying to get an entry-level job when basically you've not got much to offer, you're going to have to be trained up. Not unreasonably, employers think they want to pay you a bit less. Well, they're going to have to pay you a heck of a lot more, which means they're probably not going to employ you. So, brilliant move there by Rachel Reeves. In other news, which shouldn't be in other news, it should be the lead story today if it wasn't for the budget. The Justice Secretary, David Lammy, is understood to be about to scrap jury trials for most criminal cases, despite previously arguing just a few years ago that jury trials are fundamental to our democracy, which of course they are. Leaked reports reveal plans for juries to decide only upon cases of murder, rape, manslaughter and other of the most serious offences, carrying sentences of more than 5 years. Otherwise, it's just going to be a judge who's going to decide. Yeah, because they've been so proven to be just really making really good decisions in the last couple of years, haven't they? Plus, Keir Starmer has demanded that Britain be allowed to send peacekeeping troops to Ukraine under any peace deal with Russia. We'll be talking about that as well. As I said, there's an awful lot to talk about at home and abroad. And joining me for the chat today, I'm delighted to say, is Claire Pearsall, former Conservative Government Advisor, who joins us normally on a Wednesday. And look, you're one of those, I'm being very careful about my language, those wonks. You love this. You love days like this, don't you?
I do. It's a really sad indictment of my life that I look forward to. It's a big political event, and Budget Day is going to be really painful, but it's always really interesting to see.
It is extraordinary how much has already been leaked. Yeah. I mean, this is a very new thing. I've been covering these things for many years. A political editor for a long time. I've done broadcasting for a long time. It is extraordinary how much comes out. Now, you usually expect a rabbit from the hat, like so some amazing good news story that all the backbenchers go, yay, about. God knows what that's going to be. Who knows? But I suppose the thing that people are most worried about is, is there anything worse than we've already heard? Because even supposedly the good news stories yay, minimum wage going up more and above inflation and living wage going up more, that ostensibly sounds like a good news story. Brilliant. People on the lowest incomes are going to be able to get paid more for their work. That is, of course, a good news story. But actually, when it means that employers are going to employ fewer people, it's going to be harder to get a job, then it's not a good news story. And that's the thing, even the good news stuff is not necessarily good enough. So my question today to you is, what is your biggest fear about today's budget? It's no point me saying your biggest hopes and fears. I don't think anyone's got any hopes, unless you are basically, frankly, a wastrel and you've got 6 kids. Because this is the budget for you. If your other half doesn't work at all, or one of you just works like 3 days a week, and you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, this is the budget for you. And I'm really, really pleased for you that everyone else, all of our audience, everyone else is going to go out to work tomorrow morning, get up early in the freezing cold weather, work all day, deal with public transport, deal with traffic jams, deal with all that rubbish, worrying about putting food on the table for their kids, paying their rent or their mortgage or their energy bills. But don't worry, you could be up to £14,000 a year better off. So well done you. We're delighted for you. Delighted for you. And you were absolutely the people that we were all worrying about. So we're really pleased you're going to be okay, because no one else is. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your biggest fear about today's budget, assuming you're not one of those people. Give us a call on 0344 499 1000. You can text us on 87222. You can get in touch with us on X at talkTV. If you're bringing paracetamol, you'll definitely get on it. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text costs 1 standard network rate. Message. Claire Pissell, a lot of people are saying, and it was discussed on the show yesterday, this is a budget to save jobs, but the only jobs it's supposed to save is, well, primarily the chancellors, then the prime ministers, but then possibly Labour backbenchers. This is a budget that will appeal, we're told, to the Labour backbenchers. Whether it appeals to Labour voters, let alone any other voters, is another thing entirely.
And that's the thing that the government don't realise, is that you can sell it to the Parliamentary Labour Party, which is what the Chancellor did earlier this week.
Be big cheers.
Yeah, everybody clapping, saying how great it was. But the voting public are going to say, how much worse off am I going to be at the end of this? And that's the real crux of the matter. And
have you broken manifesto pledges or not?
Yeah, and we care about that quite a lot. I think pretty much the average person on the street is going to look at it as to how much is it going to hit me when I go into the supermarket?
Yeah.
Can I have my heating on? Yeah. Am I going to be able to afford my rent or my mortgage?
It's that basic.
So it is that basic.
It's that basic. What do you think about, the Labour manifesto in 2024? This was the commitment. We will commit to not increase taxes on working people. Now, that's the bit we all remember. Not increase taxes on working people. There's a comma. Which is why we will not increase national insurance, the basic, higher or additional rates of income tax or VAT. Now, they did increase national insurance, because they increased it, because the national insurance is paid by employers and employees. They increased it last year by employers, and in fact that was 25 billion quid of the 40 billion pound in tax rises last year. And of course it has led to over 100,000 job losses. It is that simple, and growth completely flatlining. There was a lot of talk of that, of an income tax rise, the basic rate rise being seeing like a 2 percentage point rise, and then that got they claimed that was, they had better growth forecasts. It wasn't necessary. Complete rubbish. They had those forecasts before they'd even floated that story. It was backbenchers went, oh my God, what are you thinking? But at the end of the day, we know, these stealth taxes, which the Tories have done, which all parties have been doing for recent years, and these stealth taxes, and that is freezing the threshold to which you pay each tax. But that's not just like the point of someone who gets a pay rise over 50,000 quid and then suddenly the last couple of grand they're paying 40% on them. You become a higher rate taxpayer. There are an awful lot of people earning around 50 grand, 50, 55 grand. Yeah. They are not feeling rich. These people are not feeling rich, but that last bit of income they get a pay rise because we've had inflation, but they're not paying 20% on that pay rise, they're paying 40% on that pay rise. So they are not feeling, people are going to be worse off, but everyone's going to be dragged in by this. So higher rate, the top rate, the 125 grand earners, they're going to be paying more tax, but crucially so will people who are earning more than 12.5 grand, because the threshold at which you start paying any tax at all is going to basically, effectively, because of inflation, basically it's going to go down to all intents and purposes in real terms.
It is, and this is what they're lovingly referring to as fiscal drag. It drags everybody in, and pensioners are another group that are also going to be brought into it.
You don't have to be a high earner pensioner. You don't have to be, swimming in, living in your mansion.
No, you don't. These are pretty normal people out there, have worked all their life, they have a pension, maybe a private pension as well.
What, they've worked and then they've put money away for the future. How dare you? How dare you make responsible decisions about your future? Who do you think you are? You should be punished. Oh, you will today.
Oh, you will. And anybody that's saved into an ISA, there's rumours abound that she's going to go after ISAs and the ISA levels and also salary sacrifice schemes.
And again, that's they're going to limit that to £2,000. And a lot of these things, there'll be lots of people, really young kids go, I can't do that. We really need people to save. People in this country do not save enough. And now they're going to try and discourage people from saving.
Yes.
And again, people want to save the cash. They want to say, I just need to know my money's there. I don't want to worry about what the stock market is doing. I don't want stocks and shares. I just want to have money that I put away and I know it's there. This is stuff we should be encouraging people to do, not punishing people for doing. Now, I want to show a couple of pictures. I'll describe them for those of you who are listening, because there's a picture that went out yesterday. They always do this pre-budget picture. And for Rachel Reeves, of course, who's whinging on about, everyone's a misogynist because he criticised me. He criticised you because you're a rubbish Chancellor. Now, there she is, a picture from above, and she's got the, the budget document in front of her. She's got a document which it's a white document, loads of writing on it, but it's blurred out. A lot of people have added in words along the lines of we are and things like that. There's a chessboard there. There's also fascinating, there's a mug, and the mug says, it's obviously Emma Bridgewater, it's a fancy one. It says Rachel Reeves. It's like, who needs their full name on their mug? Also, like, how much, is there an issue with people stealing mugs in the Treasury? I don't know. I'm assuming from the other side it says from accounts. I mean, it's just the most bizarre picture. This woman's not to be taken seriously. And then it gets worse. The Labour Party, and this is in their own communications, they put out a picture of the Chancellor with the Prime Minister, with the words of, and they're just grinning at each other. Like, I mean, they look like about to embrace. They look like they've just been reunited after their wartime sweethearts or something. And above it, they've written the word team, and then with a red love heart. I mean, these people are not serious people.
I think they're sort of 15-year-olds in charge of the Twitter account.
I mean, did they engrave it on a tree outside Downing Street?
What you haven't seen is on Keir Starmer's desk there's probably a mug with his name and then a little heart and team on the back.
But here's the thing, she's the first woman chancellor, the first female chancellor, blah, blah, blah. No one cares. And then, everyone's criticising you, they're misogynist, they're sexist, blah, blah. But can you imagine a male chancellor and a male prime minister putting so they're treating her differently?
Yes.
You wouldn't do a heart between.
No, you wouldn't.
Just wouldn't. That's my point. So they completely undermine it. But here's the thing. He would drop her like a ton of hot bricks if he thought he could get away with it. He wants her to do this budget. She's messed it up last year. Yep. We're going to come for taxes, but this is it. We won't come again. She's messed up the economy. There is no growth, which is the only thing they were relying on. And then she's going to come back for more now, and she's going to do more taxes, and there'll be even lower growth. And then he's going to dump her. The only good news from today is, despite what she told the Labour Party the other day, this is going to be her last budget. There's no way in the world she survives for another one.
And if you look at the photograph where you've got Sir Keir Starmer and you've got the Chancellor standing there gazing at each other, you notice that she's also got her left hand gripping his jacket sleeve.
Don't let go!
Please,
I'll drown!
Please don't make me do this. It's going to be awful. It's horrendous. It's not the image you want. I want my Chancellor...
Up. I mean, it's just, you want to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
How much we have to pay in tax and how much, if someone who's disabled can get in benefits, someone who's genuinely disabled, the people we actually care about, that is going to depend on how much money we've got in our coffers, which depends on things like the bond markets. Bond markets need to know that you are a serious person. She is not a serious person. There are strong questions about whether the woman can even do some basic sorting addition, frankly.
I think even my maths ability is better than hers, and I'm pretty rubbish. It's not my strong point.
I genuinely worry about it. I always have that thing with Ed Miliband. People go, you're an expert in climate change. I go, I'm as much of an expert as Ed Miliband is. I've got the same degree as him, the same university. So I'm pretty sure if I'm not, he's not. But, there we are. But, I mean, let's go through some of the messages. I mean, the Mail have particularly taken aim at the minimum wage rise. So, it's just so a 6% rise for 16 and 17-year-olds. Again, by definition, living at home, right? Okay. Yeah. Again, you're not paying rent. You're not, you're going to be able to claw a load of any tax you do get back because you're going to be under the threshold. 8.5%. I mean, 8.5% rise for 18 to 20-year-olds. The idea being that they should be, I think Labour want to move them up to, so over 21-year-olds who get the living wage, they should end up being paid the same. Yeah. But they're getting a 4% rise for the living wage. But there's an argument about, obviously, people on lowest incomes pay them more. OK, yeah, and they're more likely to spend that money, blah, blah. Except people who are often on the minimum wage, and I've done a lot of minimum wage jobs, aren't often worth more than that. And there are other implications because you have the differentials. So people who are the supervisors, the people on minimum wage go, well, hold on a minute. If they've got an 8% rise, then I mean,
where's mine?
Yeah, but why am I being paid £1 an hour more than them when I do far more work? But also crucially, we're looking at extra £1,500 a year for someone working full time, 18 to 20. But businesses have to find that money out of somewhere.
Yes.
Now, is that person creating £1,500 more profit or more revenue? I'm going to guess probably not. And you're looking at hospitality being hit, you're looking at shops and being hit, a lot of industries which have very, very small margin. I know people go on about the supermarkets, oh, they make so much profit. The average profit margin they have is 4%.
Yeah.
These are they're not making Apple profits, you know. They make a lot of money because they sell a lot of stuff to a lot of people, but at very low margins.
Yeah.
And when you hit those margins with those pay rises, the reality is they stop hiring people, and then, you know, your teenager and my teenager can't get their starting jobs, and neither can anyone else's, and then they can't get on the jobs ladder, and then we have a spiral down into them not working at all. That's the reality.
Well, this is it. If you're looking at 16 and 17-year-olds, go up by 6% increase to £8. Now, I love 16 and 17-year-olds. Being the owner of a 17-year-old.
That sounded wrong.
Yes.
It's a good thing you're a woman saying that, because that would have sounded really wrong.
Wouldn't it? It'd be very, very bad. But my 17-year-old trying to find a job, it is impossible in the hospitality sector in the countryside because they're not taking on people because they don't have enough cash, and they're worried what this budget is going to mean for them. Are booze prices going to go up? Are food prices, energy prices? You're taxing these jobs out of existence.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality, isn't it? I mean, again, also the freeze on the income tax and national insurance thresholds to 2030, that was already frozen to 2028, but that's going to raise £8 billion. I mean, you may as well just put some money on the basic rate of income tax at that point. But yeah, it's really interesting, and I know this is going to come up with Mel Stride, who's the Shadow Chancellor, is going to respond to this. But Rachel Reeves, only a year ago, said she wasn't going to continue the freeze because this would be, she said, picking the pockets of working people. And this was picked on by Kemi Badenoch at PMQs last year. But we're looking at 1 million more people moving into basic rate tax. And we're talking at 800,000 more people becoming higher rate tax payers. Now, again, you know, these are people, again, they've just got a pay rise, they've worked hard, they've got promoted, they've got inflation-proof pay rise, and they are going to suddenly become higher rate tax payers, and they go, oh, I've got this pay rise. Hold on a minute. Another 20%'s been taken from it. They're going to notice that, people. Two-child benefit cap scrapped, insane. 18,000 families with 6 kids or more. I mean, there are 18. I mean, you want to have 6 kids. That's brilliant. Do whatever you want to do. Well done. You know, I only managed 1. Well done. But you need to pay for them yourself. Simple as that. They get an extra £14,000 a year. I mean, wow. Pensions are going to rise, obviously above inflation under the triple lock. But there's going to be a cap on pension tax breaks. A lot of talk in the last few weeks about the mansion tax. So 100,000 very lucky souls, probably very hard-working souls as well. I'm going to go out there on a limb, who own homes worth more than £2 million, are going to face an average surcharge of £4,500 a year. So best part of, what, £8,000 out of taxed income.
But also, we don't know how that's going to be collected, because we're not sure if that's going to go on to council tax. There's some speculation that it's going to be council tax rebanding, which in itself is complicated and expensive. Or is this just going to be local authorities having a look and judging how much?
Well, that's it. I mean, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry you spent, you know, loads of money refurbishing your property and now it's worth a bit more. I have to say, I'm not theoretically or, you know, morally opposed to a higher tax band so that someone who lives in a property worth, you know, £500,000 is paying the same, you know, council tax as someone who lives in, I don't know, Buckingham Palace. I mean, there's a perfectly reasonable argument for that.
There is, but you have to do that properly. And if you are going to do it properly, then I'm sorry, you need to go to the valuation office and do the council tax banding. And
then you upset everybody. And that's the reality. Look, there's loads of other measures. And I want to hear from you, though. What are you most fearing about today's budget? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Also want to talk about, I mean, small matter. Bearing in mind, the farmers' protest, by the way, banned from bringing tractors because of... I've got some sympathy with the Met Police about this. They're obviously still protesting about inheritance tax. You, of course, living in the countryside, absolutely. But they said they have powers to stop, you know, the tractors being brought in. Lots of tractors have arrived. unfortunately have broken down, some of them around Parliament Square. And what a shame. What a shame, eh? Well played. It's interesting that Met Police, they do have powers to ban tractors outside Parliament, but they don't have the powers to ban pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel activists outside a place of worship, a synagogue, as Jews go into worship. Again, we're on two-tier justice, which leads me nicely to the extraordinary revelation yesterday, absolutely blew my mind, that David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, who was very, very, very clear back in 2020 when the government wanted to speed up the judicial process, when, of course, it was difficult to have people in the same room because of their lockdown rules. And he said that jury trials were fundamental to our democracy. He wants to scrap jury trials, not just in an emergency, but just for cost savings and efficiencies. And sorry. The cold has got the whole. I do apologise. It's going to be quite a lot of that today. Sorry about that. But he wants to end trial by jury for all but the most serious crimes. So murder, manslaughter, rape, and a couple of big serious crimes. But basically, if you're accused of something which has a less than 5-year imprisonment, you're going to be trialed by not even by like a bunch of judges or anything. One judge. Yeah. It's just extraordinary. Now, it is interesting, most of the world, other than the Anglosphere, don't have jury trials. This is actually something quite peculiar to the Anglosphere. Yeah. But as somebody, I sat on a jury a few years ago, and I was overwhelmed. I was blown away by how seriously everybody took their duties and how much it mattered to us to give the right verdict, and the attention everyone paid, the questions everyone asked. And I've not come across a single lawyer, single expert in this field who says that the problem is jury trials as opposed to massive cuts in the system and long delays, access to courts and the number of judges and lawyers. So the jury, there isn't a lack of people who can be called up for jury service. There are 70 million of us.
Yeah, and I'm desperate to be called up for it. I've never been called, neither has my husband. The pair of us want to, because I think it's really important to be part of that system, and I want to see how it works, and I'd love to be able to look at all the evidence. I find it absolutely fascinating. To remove the right to have judgment by a jury of your peers just goes against everything that we have in common law in this country.
And we've seen again and again and again judges making decisions.
The wrong decisions. And being clearly politically
affected. Again, the Southport riots and throwing the book at people. No, in no way can the government in any way direct judges what to do, apart from the fact you literally directed judges what to do and then they did what they were told. Yeah. But in virtually every case where some of these very questionable allegations of people having stirred up online with words or just a written word, juries are letting them off within, they're literally going into the jury room and going, let's vote, yeah, no, not guilty, move out, waste of everyone's time. Juries are very sensible. Okay, you get a few, they let off, some silly green protesters and things, but you know what? I'll live with that. Yeah. They genuinely make the right decision.
They do, and they work really hard at it, and most people are there with the right intentions to look at the case.
You really
itself.
Can't get out of it anymore.
No, I
lived in fear as a freelancer for years. You don't get paid if you're not at work. Yeah. Of being called for jury duty and getting stuck on some fraud trial that lasted 6 months.
I know, and I'm just still so desperate.
And you don't get paid at all. I mean, they literally cover the most minimal expenses.
And that's the thing. And I was worried when I had a small child because that was going to be very complicated. But I think it's just the wrong way of doing it. How about increasing the capacity of courts? How about opening courts for longer?
Justice costs money. Justice costs. But everyone's saying there's a 5-year backlog in getting a rape case to trial. But again, the reason why we have so many court cases and everything, again and again, no hearing after hearing after hearing for all these people, but also it's because people are being brought back again and again because they're not actually going behind bars. If you actually locked up the 100,000 people who commit pretty much all the crime in this country,
have a backlog,
then you really wouldn't. Still waiting for the police to even find the man who's been accused of stealing my handbag in what's it? I mean, what were we 18 months now?
Crikey.
18 months on. I write an email every month. I write an email every month. Go, what are you actually doing to try and find this guy? Because I said genuinely, I'm pretty sure if I got a private detective on this, I could find them within 24 hours. But you apparently can't actually find somebody. You've got his name, you've got his address, but his date of birth, you've got a photo of him, but you can't find him. Really?
They couldn't find him last time because he was actually
They couldn't
in
find.
prison.
They wasn't his address, but they went to look for him, and they didn't find out until a couple of months. It was because he was actually already in prison for something else.
You know, that joined up thinking.
Lots of computers all talking to each other. But everyone, I've got absolute faith in the justice system. I mean, I'm sorry. This is, as a number of people say, this is, if you're seriously talking about pitchforks and heading to Parliament, this is pitchfork stuff.
Yeah.
The judiciary is against it. The lawyers are against it. The Bar Association, the Botany Bar Council, the Law Society. Everyone is opposed to this, and I'm pretty sure the public are opposed to it as well. It's not in the Labour Party manifesto. The Lords can surely block it. Therefore, on that basis, and they should. This is an abomination and absolutely must not happen. But I'm sure we'll talk about that more. Lots more coming up. 10:27 is the time. Give us a call. I want to hear your thoughts, particularly on the budget. What are your biggest fears? 0344 499 1000. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back. 10:30 is the time. Let's get straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000. What are your biggest fears about today's budget? James is in Staffordshire. Hello, James. What do you want to say?
Excuse me.
You've got a worse one than me.
Good morning, Julia.
I thought we were in the fast show then.
Oh, Mr. Fleming. I've got 3 points to make.
Go for it.
Very quickly, if you don't mind. The first point is it says Labour's voting base is down to 21%. I'm wildly mystified as to who is actually in this 21% who'd vote for them in the first place, especially after the budget. The second point I'd like to make is this whole nonsense of the broadest shoulders. Amazon have 1.2 million employees worldwide. That's 1.2 million people worldwide who are being paid a wage, feeding the family and doing the other stuff. So where's this not paying your fair share nonsense?
What do you mean? Well, that still doesn't mean... And they don't pay enough tax here, neither does Starbucks. They've got rinky-dink ways of, pretending they're buying cups from each other themselves. And I mean, they don't pay the right corporation tax here.
Yeah, okay, so there are probably loopholes there that they can close. And then the third one, there was a lady on the other day, I don't know if she's an MP or not, but said that think it was yesterday, that all of Britain's problems are down to Brexit.
Oh, yes, her, yes.
Okay, that's fine. So what are all of Europe's problems down to?
Exactly. And all the other countries that haven't been part of the EU and haven't left. Yeah, absolutely. Nailed it, James. Thank you very much indeed. Carl is in Liverpool and wants to have his say as well. Hey, Carl, what do you want to say?
Good morning, Julie. Yeah, I was saying to the lady who I spoke to earlier that I'm 4 months away from having my fourth child, and both me and my wife, we work full time. My wife works from home 3 days a week, and then the rest she's away.
Yeah.
I do about 14 hours a day myself already.
Wow.
That's probably going to go. But
Have you thought of just having 2 kids and having an easier life, Carl?
Well, do you know, I'm doing my best for the British populace, Julia. That's how I think.
Good, no, good for you. I started late. I would have had more. I started too late, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I think. But what really gets me is that, like you've been speaking about this morning, you know, we are effectively going to be paying for more people to, now that the two-child benefit cap is gone, to have more children but not work, and then for their children to follow in suit. So generationally, it'll just keep going and going.
And you're not going to get an extra child benefit for the last 2 kids, are you? I mean, because you're working. No. You're doing the wrong thing. You're working.
Well, yes, I am. And you know, when I was listening to you earlier on, you kind of get angry, but you have to laugh because you think, well, surely, you know, this isn't real. Working class people are being punished, and now even more so. Yeah. So I am a little bit scared, more nervous than scared, but scared in a way because I want my children to have a good life. But it now means that I don't want to touch my savings because obviously, what a wally that I took care of my family and saved a little bit of money now that I've got
it. Here's the thing. You're still going to have a better life because you've got self-respect, you've got dignity, and you've got a structure to your day, and you're doing the right thing by your kids and by other taxpayers, and you're doing the right thing by them and showing them, like, frankly, you know, what a real man does, which is support his children, and your wife as well, what a real woman does, support her children, and it's simple as that, and your kids are going to be better off as a result. So, you know, you should pat yourself on the back and, frankly, sod those people, because, you know what, Labour ain't in charge in 2029, and over my dead body does Nigel Farage continue with the scrapping of that cap.
Yeah, I think pressure will tell, and maybe he'll go back on it.
I think he will. I don't think he or Sarah Poachin thought it through when they talked to me about it. Carl, I appreciate that. You keep up doing it. You're doing the right thing. You know, we need a lot of people to have 4 kids. More Carls having 4 kids would be a very good thing. 10:34 is the time. Up next, going to talk to Mark Littlewood from Popular Conservatism about, well, what are his biggest fears about today's budget. I don't think we've got enough time for all of them, but we'll try and get to as many as we can. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is Indeed Talk. 10:36 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Claire Pearsall still here, and we're going to get her thoughts on what my next guest has to say. Mark Littlewood is Director of Popular Conservatism and joins us now. Morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
Morning. Now, I first met you when you the Institute of Economic Affairs, a free market think tank, and I know that very much informs your thinking. Not sure it informs the Chancellor's thinking. I'll put the question to you that I'm putting to my audience today. What's your biggest fear about today's budget?
Actually, my biggest fear, Julia, is we're going to go through Groundhog Day. Last year was supposedly, a dose of tax cuts as a one-off. Now
Tax rises,
sorry, as a one-off. This year is going to be the same. Got to come back for more. Next year will probably be the same, because the Rachel Reeves economic strategy is essentially that the beatings will continue until morale improves, and this is not going to work particularly well. So she's scrabbling around for absolutely anything that she can tax, whether this is milkshakes or pension contributions or your house being in a higher council tax band. There's going to be a whole range of relatively smallish tax rises on the face of it, but it all adds up. So the tax burden's going to go up, welfare spending is going to go up. This is not a recipe to get us out of this doom loop we're in.
And that's the thing, it is a doom loop, isn't it? Because she did say, growth was the number one priority. Barely mentioned growth lately. But this tax rise, as you say, were a one-off last year. She wouldn't come back for more. And here she is coming back for more. And there's really no evidence that putting up taxes to give more money to people on welfare promotes growth. I mean, if the taxes were going up, and it's like we are going to be investing in our schools, in high tech, in cheaper, more plentiful, reliable energy, there are more motorways. I mean, more houses. There are plenty of ways that you could justify infrastructure, long-term capital expenditure. But most of it's not that. It's basically we're going to pay more people to sit on their backsides at home and have more kids that they can't afford.
Yeah, that's basically right. I mean, of course, the easiest way to get growth is to make it easier for the private sector to breathe. If you want growth, you need productivity. The private sector is considerably more productive than the public sector. Basically, there's been no gains in productivity in the public sector for a quarter of a century. Despite all of the technological improvements we've had in the last 25 years, the bangs for our buck that we're getting in the public sector have not improved at all. They have improved in the private sector.
But by a considerable amount. What's really interesting, of course, is that all these people working from home, and they were doing it quite a lot before the lockdowns, and they've done it massively since, simply basically refusing to return to work. You'd think that you would see productivity because we keep being told how much more work they get done.
Well, quite, and it just isn't borne out by the aggregate numbers, is it? So if your basic strategy is to continue to take more and more from the productive private sector side of the economy and give it to the relatively unproductive public sector side of the economy, what do you think is going to happen? Productivity and growth will continue to flatline. And that's why, Julia, I say my biggest fear is we will be back here with exactly the same problem of a £20 billion black hole or something of that ilk to solve again in a year's time. So it's going to be pretty grim, I'm afraid, and there's no discernible strategy now. They've obviously decided not to go for the big bang of income tax rises. They're going to try and just about stick to their manifesto commitments, but that means...
On a technicality,
that means, word has gone out to all of Rachel Reeves' advisors, if it moves, tax it. If it doesn't move, tax it anyway.
Indeed.
That's basically what we're going to have a whole long list of.
As one of my guests said yesterday, I think it was yesterday, look, it'd be okay if they had a plan, and it'd be great if they stuck to it, or even if they had a plan and they didn't stick to it, but they haven't got a plan and they're not sticking to it. I mean, it's just chaos. This is, we were saying earlier, this is fundamentally a budget to shore up jobs, but the only two jobs they really care about appear to be Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer's, and maybe at a push, Labour backbenchers. They seem to be deciding everything. There's a lot of talk that actually Labour backbenchers will be quite happy. Oh, it's all very progressive. We're taxing those horrible rich people with big houses. A lot of them, by the way, seem to be Labour Party donors, but there we are. Yeah. They might change their tune when it comes to voting next time round, when it actually starts hitting them. But we're going to give a load more money to people on welfare. I mean, because Labour has become this sort of patronising welfare party now, hasn't it?
Yes, well, that's right. And it was interesting what you were saying. If you only need to go back to just after Labour won the election, growth is our number one priority. We will be laser focused on growth. But the problem was there was no strategy here. They were basically conducting a rain dance, just sort of hoping that if they kept saying growth enough, it would somehow magically appear in the economy. There wasn't actually any plan for what you might do to encourage businesses to grow.
Well, there was an anti-plan because they put up costs for businesses and discouraged them from hiring. Well, that's the interesting thing. I mean, the national insurance for employers rise, again, it was a breach of the manifesto commitment, but it also, crucially, it was an extra £25 billion in cost on business, which had a completely instant, predictable, predicted and happened impact on the number of people they employed, whether they dropped people, whether they were able to give them pay rises or not. And now we've got exactly the same thing with the rise in the living wage and the minimum wage. Living wage is going to go up by 4.1%. That's for people on the lowest wages, age 21 and above. But for 16 to 17-year-olds are seeing a 6% rise. 18 to 20-year-olds are going to see an 8.5% rise. So, OK, they're young adults. You think some might say, well, they should be paid the same either way. Apart from the fact they're largely young adults living at home, doing temporary work, and frankly, have very few qualifications or useful life experience to be very particularly productive or useful employees. And that's why employers expect to pay them less. We are looking at an awful lot of young people who are never going to get on the jobs ladder because employers will just go, it's an extra 1,500 quid a year for me to employ you. And frankly, you're not worth that to me.
Yes, well, that's exactly right, Julia. I mean, the hard-headed calculation that businesses make is if I'm having to pay you X pounds an hour, are you delivering at least X pounds an hour for my business?
Plus the cost, plus the national insurance, plus the employer
all
tax.
All of the overheads attached to the fact. And so there's a danger that by doing this, we're essentially removing the first rung or two on the career ladder, because we've already got a huge problem with not enough young people being in work, and indeed, as you say, idling, essentially, sitting at home, not even in training, for example.
And also, by the way, you don't need to increase wages when you've got 1 million people unemployed in that age bracket. If you've got 1 million people who aren't working, then you absolutely don't need to increase wages, because that's not how markets work.
Exactly right. And if you make the cost of anything more expensive, people consume and buy less of it. If you make a tin of soup more expensive, people will eat less soup.
Yeah.
If you make a banana more expensive, people will eat less bananas.
Yeah.
If you make employing young people more expensive, fewer businesses will employ fewer young people, right? Yeah. So that's what the consequence of this is likely to be. So, as I say, my fear is that the doom loop is going just to continue, that she's just about going to be able to say, if you believe her spreadsheets and her mathematical workings, that she's just about filled the black hole based on a whole range of assumptions about how the economy might perform over the next 3 or 4 years. But here's a good bingo card game for you. I think I'm right in saying in her first budget, she mentioned the word growth, I think, just over 30 times. I'm going to be keeping count of how many times she mentions it today. I think it will likely have dropped off the radar. And frankly, look, Julia...
Well, the only time she'll mention it is when she has to say that the ABR has downgraded growth.
Yeah, downgraded the growth forecasts. And this is the real problem. You were right. You said earlier that we can have an interesting discussion about how we get growth. Do we try and cut public spending a lot and cut taxes? Do we try to make sure our public spending is on sort of infrastructure projects rather than consumption? There's a whole argument that can be had here. But the government's not engaging in it at all.
No,
so growth is going to continue to bump along the floor. That means that tax revenues remain stagnant. That means that the problems of fiscal black holes, if anything goes wrong at all in the world economy, remains enormous. And you and I will be having this same conversation in a year's time, I'm afraid.
Absolutely. By the way, I think this entire conversation is misogynistic because we're criticising the Chancellor. So naughty you. I expect the police to turn up on your doorstep for a hate crime. I just want to touch finally on, there's lots of the rinky-dink measures, when it comes to, there's the mansion tax, electric vehicle tax per mile, ISAs, gambling tax, milkshake, you name it. It's just loads of little things. But the really big tax raising thing is going to be 8 billion quids in terms of the freeze on income tax and the national insurance thresholds all the way to 2030. Now, already done by the Tory party to 2028, and she kept it last year. She said she wouldn't extend it anymore because she said that was picking the pockets of working people. And now she's going to pick the pockets of working people. An extra 1 million more people are going to become basic rate taxpayers, and 800,000 more people are going to move from the 20% basic rate to the 40% higher rate band. That's an awful lot of people right now and in the future, because let's face it, more and more people every year are going to be dragged into that. That's a lot of very unhappy people paying a heck of a lot more tax.
Absolutely right. This is the classic political con because due to inflation, each year a pound is worth less. So obviously over each year salaries tend to go up. That doesn't necessarily mean you're richer. It just means you're keeping pace with inflation. And if salaries go up, you know, in 5 years' time, a salary of £50,000 will not be anything like, it won't buy you anything like as much as it would buy you today. So if you freeze those thresholds, you are to all intents and purposes increasing income tax in any real objective.
Yeah, in terms of, at the end of the day, people don't care what the announcement is in the Commons. They care about what is actually, the number is on their wage back, what is in their bank account, and it's going to be less. Mark Littlewood, pleasure to talk to you. Enjoy the counting up of the words. At times she says the word growth. I think it'll be a very low number. Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism. Thank you for that. Claire Pearsall, your response to that?
Yeah, I mean, incredibly sensible analysis there, and he's spot on when he says about the fact they have no strategy. The Labour Party has come in with zero strategy. They plan to win an election, and that was it. They didn't plan anything else.
Change. No change.
Yes.
Yeah, we're getting change, small change. Yeah, that's what's going to be left.
If you're lucky, down the back of your sofa. But I think that's it. If you say change often enough, it will happen. If you say growth often enough, then it will magically happen as well. And this is where we're at.
It's like the equivalent of like those ruby shoes. Isn't it, in The Wizard of Oz?
Yeah,
it's like,
if
I just click my heels, and eventually it'll happen. Yeah, it doesn't happen, love. 10:47 is the time. I wonder if Donald Trump keeps clicking his heels, he'll get peace in Ukraine. Would that be the 9th war he will claim to have solved? Doesn't look very good so far. We'll talk to a former advisor to the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, Cormac Smith, about what is going on really up next. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 10:50 is the time. We're going to briefly leave the budget. Lots of calls coming in. I promise to get to many more in the next couple of hours. Don't forget the budget at 12:30. Well, realistically, it'll start about 12:40, knowing how things move on in the House of Commons. But let's talk about what on earth is going on when it comes to Ukraine. This person talking with that person, a 28-point plan, a 19-point plan. But fundamentally, isn't it up to the Ukrainian people and their president to decide whether they're willing to lay down their arms? Let's talk to Cormac Smith. He's a former advisor to the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry and joins us. Good morning to you.
Julia, good morning. Do you know what? One day we will meet under happier circumstances.
I would really, really like that, because this is very worrying to watch. I think Donald Trump got a little bit too pleased with himself about what happened in Gaza with that 20-point plan, trying to apply this 28-point plan which clearly written by the Kremlin on Ukraine. I mean, basically, short of Vladimir Zelensky hand over his firstborn child, it was pretty much everything that Putin could want. Now we've got this European 19-point plan. Is there a plan that basically Ukraine and Russia could both feasibly sign up to?
Well, look, let's talk about the European and Ukrainian side first. And everybody is being very, very tight-lipped about this, but reportedly, Ukraine is ready to sign up. What we know about the European red lines is there must be security guarantees, there must be Ukrainian sovereignty, Ukraine's financial needs need to be looked after. There can be nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine. Refer back to the Trump-Putin plan, which was clearly, written in the Kremlin and translated into English in the White House. Yeah. I said that on Friday, by the way. And also, there's going to be the return of children. Now, look, we don't know, but I can say with a great deal of confidence what the three clear Ukrainian red lines are going to be. The 25% of Donetsk in the Donbass, which Russia wants to be further conceded, will not be conceded.
So land that Russia has not conquered, which contains these sort of fortress towns and cities, they will not and cannot concede that.
No, because that is effectively a gateway to Kyiv and the rest of Ukraine. And secondly, they cannot accept restrictions on the future size of their military. Yeah. And I do not believe they can give an undertaking not to join NATO in the future, because this is fundamental to Ukrainian sovereignty, but also to their future security.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that's my reading of it.
And again, it's fascinating. And we had a guest on yesterday. And again, these are Kremlin talking points. It's like, well, expansion of NATO. No, countries asked to join NATO because of Russian expansion threats. Sweden and Finland were absolutely fine not being parts of NATO. So was Ukraine, because there was, this guarantee. I mean, it is extraordinary that this idea that NATO is somehow an aggressive force when it's never launched a war on anybody.
Julia, can I please say, this infuriates me. I sat down with a very good friend, a senior Ukrainian ambassador, in the early weeks of this further invasion, and we decided to identify what the 5 biggest lies that Russia told and the narratives they have out there. I won't bore you with the other 4 unless you want them, but one was NATO expansion. Yeah. And we saw 2 years ago when Finland, who have a 1,340-kilometer border with Russia, decided to join NATO. Despite all the nuclear saber rattling, Russia's reaction was to withdraw troops from their border with Finland. This is bully boy tactics. There are only 2 reasons, and I must remind people that Russia invaded Ukraine. One, a democratic, free, successful Ukraine was the biggest threat to this criminal Kremlin regime. And the successful Maidan revolution was the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah. But 2, Ukraine used to account for 40% of industrial output in the Soviet Union. This is an old-fashioned war of colonial conquest.
It was the breadbasket of the Soviet Union. It's the industrial heartland. Of course, the slice of Ukraine that Russia wants is the industrial region. I keep having conversations with people saying, oh, well, it's a horribly corrupt regime and this and that. And it's like, no one's saying it's perfect. No former Soviet nation is. In war, there are always plenty of people who are taking their cut. And that happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. It happens in every single war going. But no one's ever pretending that Zelensky or Ukraine or the Ukraine are perfect, as we would not be. It is absurd, isn't it? But here's the thing: how much is going to come down to the whims of Donald Trump? And we've seen this. I think it was Bloomberg got hold of a tape of Steve Witkoff, the president's negotiator and mystery, basically sort of briefing his Russian counterpart on how to talk to Donald Trump, to sort of basically how you keep the Sun King happy by flattering him. It seems to me that whether it's NATO leaders, it's European leaders, Zelensky, whether he flies out to Mar-a-Lago over the Thanksgiving weekend in America this weekend or whatever happens, everything is just constantly about stroking Donald Trump's ego and talking him down from his love-in with Putin.
Well, look, there is a lot of information coming to light now, including the Bloomberg article, which you just mentioned about Witkoff's position and his links to the Kremlin and the Russian mafia in real estate deals that go back decades and decades. There is a reason he's obviously of Russian descent as well. There is a reason that Donald Trump has appointed somebody with zero diplomatic experience as his point man on Ukraine and Russia. But you say that this depends on a whim to Donald Trump. If there has been a deal agreed by the Americans and the Europeans and Ukraine accepts that, it is going to become increasingly difficult for Donald Trump to hold his pro-Kremlin line. I'm not saying that he won't, because he never ceases to surprise us. But it is really this. My prediction is that this deal is backing both Putin and Trump into a little bit of a corner, because they are continually failing the reasonableness test, which Ukraine is continually passing.
And this is the thing, Ukraine has to be seen to be we don't want war, we're agreeing to something. The Europeans put forward reasonable proposals and agrees to trying to make Putin look like the difficult person, which of course he is. He's the person who invaded in the first place. And again, it is fascinating. Do you think that there is actually a deal that could be done? Because actually Ukraine have come a long way. I don't think we'd be happy as the British people if we'd been fighting a war for 4 years and had seen so many of our menfolk killed, and indeed innocents killed, our children basically stolen away and kidnapped by the foreign force, to basically give away 20% of our country to the invaders. I'm not entirely sure we'd be willing to do that. I'm not quite sure why we're expecting Ukraine to.
Sorry to be vulgar, but babies raped also.
Cormac, I think we've lost your mic. I think unplugged slightly. Can
you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you now. Yep.
Sorry, I was just saying. Excuse the crudeness, but also our women, children, and even babies raped by Russians. Julia, can I say one thing,
very
please?
quickly?
You talked about corruption. The 2 years that I was a British diplomat embedded in Ukraine's Ministry for Foreign Defence, the pot that I was paid out of was specifically to deal with reforms and corruption. Anytime I did extra work, I had to demonstrate, i.e. with other ministries, I had to demonstrate to the British ambassador, who was my boss, that it was forwarding the anti-corruption and reform agenda. Ukraine is making progress.
Yeah, exactly. It's starting from a low base. That's for sure. Cormac Smith, so appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Claire Pissell, your response to that?
I think it's really interesting, the amount of Russian propaganda that goes round, and that people fall for it. And would we be happy to hand over part of our country just because someone else was invading?
It's just such an extreme thing. The question is, will the Europeans be able to step up? Because at the end of the day, although we spent lots of money, we're helping lots of humanitarian work, we don't have the weaponry. As we had the report the other week, you and I were discussing, we can't even defend ourselves. So at the end of the day, the Ukrainians need those weapons from America. At the moment, the European taxpayer is paying for them to give to Ukraine. I don't understand why we are simply not taking all that money out of those those Russian bank deposits and just handing those over. It seems to be a very, very simple equation for me. Anyway, plenty more coming up, mostly on the budget, but also the end of jury trials. This is Talk.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning. Welcome back to the show. Approaching 3 minutes past 11 o'clock. This is Talk, the home of common sense on the long-awaited. It's finally come, and be careful what you wish for. Budget day. Rachel Reeves, in about an hour and a half, is going to stand up in the Commons after PMQs, and she is going to tell us exactly what is in her budget. The trouble is, of course, we know an awful lot of what's already in it, and none of it is good news so far, unless, as I was saying earlier, you're a family with 5 or 6 kids and you don't bother working to support them, in which case you are totally quids in. Well done, you. Anyway, whether you are listening on DAB Plus radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or on your connected device, thank you very much indeed for joining me. Don't forget that our talkTV app is going to disappear into the ether, just like your wages do, effectively, when Rachel Reeves is in charge. But come Monday, that's December the 1st, and it's going to, all of our podcasts, all of our output is going to move to the Talk app. So I say we're just pretending that bit never happened, going back to what we do best here at Talk. So do just download the Talk app from wherever you've got your Talk TV app from. Delete that Talk TV app on Monday. Well, it'll disappear, and then the Talk app will carry on with everything that you want to watch and to listen to. So we're going to be talking more about the budget. We're also going to be talking about the farmers who've been banned from bringing their tractors to a protest in Westminster on Budget Day against proposed inheritance tax rules. The Met Police said it has had a number of conversations with the protest organisers, and while people will still be able to demonstrate, conditions were put in place to prevent people from bringing vehicles like tractors and agricultural vehicles. Some of them did bring those vehicles. There has been at least one arrest, we understand, but I do find it fascinating that Met Police do have the powers to stop this disruption in Westminster when MPs are in the House of Commons. They don't have the power to stop protesters shouting and screaming at Jews going into their synagogue on a Sunday in North London. It seems to me that one of those is a kind of more fundamental right, be able to go and worship whatever your religion in peace without being screamed at, shouted at about a government policy. If you want to be anti-Israel, be anti-Israel. I disagree with you, but you've got a right to be anti-Israel. You can protest peacefully outside the Israeli embassy, or indeed outside the House of Commons. Outside a synagogue, I would say no, but there we are. We're also going to talk about the small matter of, our most basic fundamental rights as citizens in this country. You might think that being tried in the event of being accused of a crime by a jury of your peers, 12 good men and women true, might be a crucial part of that. And indeed, Justice Secretary David Lammy did actually agree with that. He said it was fundamental to our democracy to keep jury trials. That was 2020. But David Lammy in 2025 feels very differently, and he is set to scrap jury trials for all but the most serious crimes. So if you're going to be facing up to 5 years behind bars, you will not have the right to a jury of your peers deciding your guilt or innocence. Only rape, manslaughter, murder and other serious offences will be included. Extraordinary change to our fundamental rights. I cannot believe that we can not stop that from going ahead, not in a manifesto. Absolutely incredible attack on our fundamental civil liberties. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, plus your thoughts, of course, on the budget. Key question today is, I'd love to ask what your hopes and fears, but say, unless you've got 6 kids and you don't work, most of us have only got fears about the budget. So what are your fears about the budget? Give us a call, 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at talkTV. Calls are charged at the national rate and text costs 1 standard network rate message. But you knew all that already. Claire Pearsall is still with me. She's a former Conservative government advisor, joining me throughout the show. We're going to take a bit of PMQs in about an hour's time, just a little bit. PMQs is a bit pointless, isn't it, on Budget Day? Everyone knows that. And then we will take some of the budget. We're going to dip in and out, mainly doing that because Rachel Reeves is a very, very, very dull speaker. It's a lot of gobbledygook numbers a lot of the time, and we'd rather have people... Oh, God, the coughing. Sorry, I knew the coughing and the sneezing. I wouldn't get through an intro. Apologies, everybody. I've got whatever the latest lurg is. That we're going to have Justin Urquhart, Stuart in, and you here, and a Labour once was Labour representative, giving you tuppence worth. So we'll bring you the points that Rachel Reeves says, the crucial points, how it affects you, and the analysis, rather than letting her just drone on for an hour and us all sitting here going, "What on earth is going on?"
Yes,
which we thought was a rather more sensible way of doing it.
I think that's much nicer on people's ears. But I think that we're going to see death by 1,000 taxes, aren't we? This is the problem, is that she isn't going to make the really hard decision about increasing income tax for everybody equally. She's now choosing to chop and change and.
But you're saying that, like, this is how the debate gets framed. We need to increase taxes. We can't increase borrowing because the bond markets have a funny habit of saying, because they're all sexist pigs and they hate a woman chancellor. Apparently, they won't let her borrow anymore. No, because we can't afford to borrow anymore.
Yeah.
But again, there's also tax cutting. Jeremy Hunt, not a man for whom I have any time at all, I have to say. Awful at all the jobs he's done. But Jeremy Hunt pointed out you could actually save 47 billion quid. We're told she's got a 40 billion black hole, 47 billion quid simply by returning welfare budget to pre-lockdown levels. Now, again, given the inflation rate we've had since then, I don't think you could save that much. That's not the case. But you could save a heck of a lot of money by doing that. And at the same time as saying, well, we've got no money, brackets, we've got no growth. She won't say that, but the Office of Budget Responsibility are expected to say that. But we're going to spend more money on feckless families who have a load of kids they can't afford. The 2-child benefit cap scrapped. 18,000 families who've got 6 kids or more are going to get an extra £14,000 a year. Your and my money. Seriously, if that doesn't stick in the craw.
Yes, but do you know what the government are going to do, just to counterbalance this, is they're going to set up a benefit fraud squad.
Brilliant.
Because we've not had that previously.
Yeah, I mean, again, because they're going to tackle all this. Again, I don't know why they're doing that, because they keep telling us, there's barely any benefit fraud. Well, again, apart... I mean, there's a huge... Ask anyone who works in it, there's a huge amount of benefit fraud, not just from people who are claiming, and most of that was going on during lockdown, people literally claiming to be people they weren't and putting money. Billions lost that way. But also, people who could work or could work full-time when they're only working part-time, not working. That's fraud. That's fraud. That's what that is. That's what that is. We're basically told, look, she's going to go for workers. We're going to see the freeze on income tax and national insurance thresholds that's already there to 2028 rise to 2030. We're going to keep seeing that. That's going to raise 8 billion quid. A year ago, Rachel Reeves said this was picking the pockets of working people. And now she's going to, literally pick the pockets of working people. 1 million more people are going to be moved into 20% basic rate. So people earning, 13, 14 grand a year. Just over 12 grand a year. 800,000 more people are going to move from paying the basic rate of tax, 20%, to the higher rate of 40%. When the higher rate was originally brought in, as opposed to the top rate of 45%, when the higher rate was brought in, that was for people, that was the bank manager. That was probably head teachers didn't pay that. It was top earners. Now it's kind of like, in the South East, certainly, kind of middle income earners.
It is, and it's not so much picking the pockets, is it? It's sort of hitting you around the head and stealing your bag.
This is full-on street robbery.
It is, and they can't define what a working person is. I mean, that's half of the Labour government's problem. They don't want to hit working people. They don't really know what they are. And they don't want to upset their backbenchers. So we've got this sort of piecemeal budget, which has been leaked out. I feel like I've been talking about the budget for at least the last 4 or 5 weeks.
No, it's because we have been talking about the budget. I mean, again, she just led this incredibly long lead time. It's much later than usual.
Yes.
But basically, we were saying this is about jobs, but it's her job and Starmer's job. She ain't going to save her job. This is not going to be the second of many budgets. She ain't going to keep her job, no matter what. It's not going to save anyone else's. I don't even think it's going to save Keir Starmer's job. He wants her as the fall guy, basically.
Yes, he does.
And Labour MPs. I mean, you can all cheer on. Isn't it great we're helping all these families? By the way, largely immigrant heritage families having large numbers of children. That's the reality. 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 Pakistani and Bangladeshi families who have more than the 3 kids and 2 kids and therefore have larger families and therefore benefit the most from that two-child benefit cap being scrapped. I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure that that's what most voters who vote Labour are looking for. We know that more than 50% of Labour voters don't support that. Can we look at those pictures again? We showed them yesterday, earlier in the last hour. There's a picture which was put out yesterday. It's the usual sort of pre-budget picture with the Chancellor. And this picture is her with her budget documents, and she's writing on this piece of paper. She's got a chessboard next to her because she's a chess prodigy, apparently. I mean, again, all you play chess. That'd be more useful than you running the country, love. And she's got a mug. I love the fact this mug says Rachel Reeves on it, and presumably from accounts at the back. But again, why do you need a mug saying your full name? Does she not? I mean, she doesn't
know it.
She doesn't remember where she worked or for how long. Maybe she doesn't know her name.
Oh, that's it. That's what she's got, a sort of handy reminder right in front of her. Oh, that's who I am today.
I mean,
this
genuinely, it's genuinely terrifying. Anyway, we're all being sexist. It's fascinating. Some of the stuff on social media, I can't quote a lot of them. They're quite rude about what she's really writing on that piece of paper. But then the Labour press office, they're highly paid communications, top-notch communicators. They decided to put out this picture. It's a picture of really, really happy Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves, who look like long-lost sort of wartime sweethearts, reunited. She's got her budget speech, and they're in the Downing Street corridor, and you can recognise it. And above it, the Labour Party have written "team" and then a red love heart. I have no words.
No, and me neither. And I hate it when you get these sort of cringy posts. And this one feels like it's a 15-year-old girl that's been in charge of putting the headline together. Yeah, and just thought it would be a lovely sort of, put a little love heart. I'd add glitter if it were me.
I mean,
so
why don't you put a unicorn
on
there? I mean, it's just embarrassing, isn't it? Again, Rachel Reeves, first woman chancellor, take me seriously. Well, your own party doesn't take you seriously, love. That's the main issue. And again, you'd never see a male chancellor having that. You wouldn't. No, you wouldn't have that. What does that tell you? What does that tell you?
Embracing in a corridor.
Yeah, exactly.
With a male chancellor.
It's quite bizarre. It's not going to go down well with voters. The papers are ready to rip it apart. It's quite clear even the left-wing papers aren't that keen. She said to MPs earlier this week, this is all very progressive. I mean, minimum wage going up. I mean, again, these numbers are astonishing how much the minimum wage is going up. It's 6% for 16 to 17-year-olds, 8.5%. I mean, it's more than double the inflation rate for 18 to 20-year-olds. The living wage, so people who are 21 years and above, up by 4.1%. Again, higher than inflation right now. But now people on the left will go, this is really good, young people getting paid more. But the reality is young people, particularly your average 16 or 17 or 18 or 19, with all due respect, aren't much use. No. I like to think I was at that time. I worked very hard, but we're not much use. We're getting experience. Also, you're students, or you're living at home with mum and dad. You haven't got rent to pay. You don't, and there's a reason why employers employ them, because they're cheaper. Even though they're maybe not as good as people who are a bit older. That's how you get your first sort of, your foot on the rung of the ladder. But the response to this from businesses will be, oh, you're going to cost me an extra £1,500 a year, then I'm not going to bother employing you. That's what we're going to have fewer jobs for young people.
We're going to have fewer jobs for younger people, and then the Labour Party are going to have to deal with a burgeoning unemployment system. But where are they going to make these changes? They want all of the young people to either be in education, employment or training. Yeah. There aren't enough college places, there aren't enough apprenticeships, and now they're not going to be enough jobs.
There are too many doing media studies, getting into 50 grand's worth of debt.
Well, yes, there are. And, that needs to be tackled at the same time. But where are you going to put them? If nobody's going to take them on because they are going to be an enormous cost, and employers are going to have to take that view, am I going to take on somebody with more experience or an expensive teenager? And
by the way, we had a report the other week of all these parents who apparently think it's perfectly OK to give their kid a day off because they just don't feel like it today to go to school. God. If you think your kid is... If you've done that with your kid ever, even on one occasion, unless there was if grandma's died, fair enough, right? Yes. Seriously. But, but if you've done that and I don't feel like going to school, you let your kid a day off school, trust me, your kid is not going to be a good employee, and no employer wants them. It's really that simple. I mean, I'm sorry, if no one else is going to tell you that straight, that's what Auntie Julia's for today. But we got the reason why a lot of Labour backbenchers are going to hit like this is because we're hitting the rich there, the mansion tax. 100,000 lucky people who've also probably worked really darn hard, who have homes worth more than £2 million are going to face an average surcharge of £4,500 effectively on their council tax. A lot of people are going to be really hoping that their home's worth 1.9 million, aren't they? And you think, well, these people must be massively rich. I mean, sorry, some of these will be flats. Okay,
yes.
Some of these will be flats in the southeast. Property prices are insane in London, and again, it's probably not a bad way of getting money out of the wealthy, because you can't hide your property. You can't go, oh no, I've moved it to Switzerland or the Cayman Islands. No, it's sitting there in West London or North London, wherever. I'm wondering whether the Prime Minister's home in Islington will be hit. I'd be surprised if a sort of a townhouse in Islington wasn't worth £2 million.
It's bound to be, but I think this is a risk of now hitting the housing market, because there's going to be downgrading of property prices going around all over the place. Everybody is going to want to come in at sort of 1.8, 1.9.
That's not bad. I think anything. Look, I think people who want to keep property prices high are crazy, because they go, oh, it's terrible, and my kid can't get on the housing market. Oh, really? What a surprise! Our house prices are mad. We need to do something about it. But again, we've got things like the tax-free cash ISA being cut from what your eligibility from 20k that you can put away without facing tax to 12k a year. We've got things like import duties are likely to be extended on those packages, largely coming from China, from Shein and other companies. If a package is worth less than 135 quid, then you don't get the import duty on it. But basically, that's going to put up prices for people. But again, cheap throwaway fashion. I don't think, frankly, we should be crying about that. I can live with that. A gambling tax. Again, there's a lot of people working in that industry. Milkshake tax, extending sugar tax to milky drinks, because we can't trust adults to buy their drinks. Again, tourist tax, that's going to hit Brits as well as foreign tourists, but we're looking at a couple of quid a night.
I just think that
it's completely the norm in Europe.
It is.
You go and stay somewhere, you stay in Spain, you're paying a tourist tax.
Do you know what? The tourist tax thing, I'm kind of ambivalent about it. I think that it will hit some industries, but it's up to the local authorities involved whether they accept to do it or not. They don't have to. They're not going to be made
I'm not sure people are going to go, I'm not going to go on a holiday to Cornwall, or I'm not going to go on a holiday to the Lake District because I'm going to have to pay £2 a night.
If you're
Mind you, if it's a family of four, and then you're exactly. So they've got tourist tax. We've also got a cut in the 5% VAT rate on energy to cut energy prices possibly on the table. Green levies possibly being moved to general taxation rather than on your bills, to make your bills look cheaper, but actually, we're all paying for it more. Electric vehicle tax being taxed 3p per mile. Sorry, love that one. Oh no, people buy electric cars, and then we have less fuel duty from people paying for petrol and diesel cars, and we have to make up the difference. Where do we get it from? Electric vehicles. I've been telling you this for the last 10 years. This is what's going to happen. Ha ha ha! More fool you. I'm sorry, I've got no sympathy there whatsoever. I've even gone through, I think, most of the big measures we're talking about. Do you think there's going to be some sort of rabbit from a hat?
I don't think so. I think this is it. I think we'd be very, very lucky to find any kind of rabbit whatsoever. But it's sort of a tax on fun, isn't it?
It is,
the way I look at it. If I choose to have a milky drink, that is entirely my business. I don't wish to be taxed more heavily. But we've got the most complicated tax code ever.
Yeah, we really do. We really do. It's a massive, massive issue, and I think it's the most complicated in the world.
23,000 pages. The UK tax code, and so many stupid things. It's things like marshmallows. There are 2 rates of VAT for marshmallows.
No.
Yeah, seriously. I've looked at this. It's a very sad individual.
I tell you what, cocoa round Claire Pearsall's place is really tasty.
It's a funny thing.
Again, it's all, and again, it's like, well, I know I don't gamble, I don't drink sugary, milkshakey drinks in packets. What does it bother me? Well, I've learnt this to my cost, because they come to cigarettes, the vaping, the chocolate bars. They come for everything else. They're going to come for your chocolate or your wine or your beer next. They really are.
We don't know what's going to happen with booze as well, do we?
Yeah.
We don't know if that duty is going to go up.
They reckon fuel duty on cars, but again, they're going to be freezing that. Howard Cox, brilliant campaigner on that. But again, it's just untenable for any chancellor to raise that now, the cost of driving. And again, and that cost, it goes on everything that you buy. Doesn't matter if you go to the shops, doesn't matter if it's delivered, doesn't matter what it is, it is going to be provided by someone who at some point is going to put it on a lorry or in a van.
Exactly.
And it's going to have to be paid for. Let's also talk about the farmers' protest outside Parliament. They're still protesting against inheritance tax. Brought a load of tractors, even though they're told, no tractors, no agricultural vehicles. Some of them certainly have they've got no other vehicle to drive, and some of those vehicles have broken down, which is a bit of a shame. But a lot of people talking about two-tier policing once again. Met Police do apparently have powers to stop a load of protests, but they don't use them when it comes to stopping, large numbers of black hooded, black masked local Muslims in the East End with very, very, very aggressive shouting at the Palestinian marches, and indeed people outside North London Synagogue on Sunday. But they do use it against farmers.
Of course, they don't like the farmers coming in. I understand with traffic in London, but they have the right to protest just as much as anybody else. And I quite like to see a whole line of, John Deere and Massey Ferguson's parked up down Whitehall.
We don't really have there is an argument about, you need to be able to get electric. I can say, okay, if you say they can't be in Parliament Square, we need to be able to get emergency vehicles for you in the event of a terror attack. But yeah, there are
other places.
Funnily enough, farmers tend to be rather law-abiding people.
And they're really good at driving those
and also
stretches, by the way.
As you say, very, very wide indeed. Let's also talk about end of trial by jury for all but the most serious crimes. David Lammy, once again, just talking absolute nonsense after saying only a few years ago when the Tories were looking at during lockdown, look, we can't get juries together. Let's scrap jury trials for loads of offences. No, this is fundamental to our democracy. Apparently not anymore. And these are some recommendations from Brian Leveson, who did, of course, that big report into phone hacking. And he's basically looking at how to cut costs. He did talk about AI, using AI, and then it ruled against that. Thank God. Did then talk about having a judge and two lay magistrates. No, Lammy's just going just for the judge, but also people facing a prison term of possibly 3 years or more. No, he's gone for 5 years. He's gone all out. Unless you're facing rape, murder, manslaughter, other really serious charges, then you don't get judged by a jury of your peers. You get judged by, basically a public school educated old white man who lives in a nice big house, probably getting a mansion tax bill in the next year. No, but the reality is we know, and who's probably highly politicised, because you don't get a job as a judge anymore.
No.
Unless you toe the line on all the DEI nonsense. I've got friends who are judges. I know this is what is going on. I mean, we've seen two-tier justice handed out again and again in the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yes.
And we're basically saying, more of that, please.
It's just wrong. It is the fundamental right to have a jury trial and be judged by a jury of your peers.
Only in the Anglosphere.
Yeah.
I was really shocked to learn that. But that's because we've got better justice system.
Yes, we do, because we have a democratic system, and long may that continue. Otherwise, you may as well just stick people in a room with people like you and I, and we'll judge them. We'll get through it quickly.
Because the thing is, you do come with your different viewpoints. So, I haven't been on a jury a few years ago, and obviously I'm not allowed legally to talk about what happened in the jury room. But I would just say, very different group of people different, different walks of life, different professions, different jobs, different groups, and it was really interesting. Okay, how much people cared about doing the right thing, the sense of responsibility we had that we could freeze, we could basically make someone innocent, or also someone guilty and possibly go to prison. I mean, that is incredible power to have. I mean, we're all very emotionally affected by that. I think you should be. It's a really important duty.
Absolutely.
But I think it's such a fundamental, and we've seen with cases again and again, over the Southport riots, the judges get it wrong, and sometimes juries get it wrong, but not as often as judges. They tend to be less biased. And when there's a cause, when we talk about free speech issues and things like that, they really are on the right side of history.
And they debate it well, because, as you say, people come at it from a different angle, and they may have views that you hadn't really thought of when it comes to the case. And I think that's really important that we have those people involved.
Yeah, exactly. And the cynicism. And again, juries do let off some people. Yeah, they do. Absolutely, they do. Because the reality is most people who get to court are guilty. I mean, that is statistically that is the reality. I've spoken to lots of criminal barristers. I've said to you, roughly what percentage of your cases are actually involve innocent people? 0.1%. I would just let you know, if you're watching the pictures, we've got to the Chancellor. She has just left Downing Street. She's with her Treasury team. There are 7 of them. She's got her big red box. She's very interesting. They're all in dark suits. She's in a navy suit with a white shirt. I feel the need to comment on that. I shouldn't really, but it's probably misogynistic. They all stand for this ridiculous photograph of her with the budget box, and she's looking very pleased with herself and very happy, and I'm sure she is, because she must know in her heart of hearts this is her last chance saloon budget. This is it. But they're posing for their pictures right now. In fact, she looks like a barrister, doesn't she?
She does. She's got the double-breasted suit jacket.
Maybe I'd rather like that. I mean, let's be girly for a moment. Well done, Rachel.
That's why I
well done,
commented.
Rachel.
I quite like the fashion choice today.
Absolutely. And now they're going to do a picture of just her. But have fun. It's going to be your last chance saloon, though, Rachel, because this is your last budget. But again, that's because I'm sexist. 11:26 is the time. Love to hear your thoughts. Question to you: what is your biggest fear about today's budget? Feel free to call in about jury trials, Ukraine, anything else. You know, you get to choose. In about an hour's time, of course, we will be heading to the budget. We're going to pick and choose the bits we take, get the analysis, so we don't just have a load of Rachel Reeves droning on in economic gobbledygook, which is what a lot of it is. But we're also going to be taking a little bit of PMQs, and we'll have analysis from people who know what they're talking about, not me. 11:26, this is the time. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the Home of Common Sense. 11:30 is the time. Let's get straight to your calls. 0344 499 1000. Andrew is in Hertfordshire, wants to have his say on the budget. Andrew, what do you want to say?
Good morning. Yeah, the big fear we've all got is the markets. The markets will fry it. When she sits down, the markets will just hunt the pound down like a dog. It will be unbelievable.
You think it's going to be that bad? But if she keeps to her fiscal rules, all this stuff, it'll be fine, won't it?
No. Julia, by freezing the thresholds and by taxing jobs last year, they were done last year, they're done this year. The economy cannot... nobody talks about growth anymore. Why are we all talking about tax?
No.
No one's talking about growth, Julia.
Yeah.
The markets will annihilate them. And if you think about the pay rises they gave to people...
Yeah.
Imagine they now will go into those new super tax environments and they'll want more.
Yeah.
and the markets know that.
Yeah, and again, the public sector pay, I mean, it's just, it keeps on going up. No productivity rises, keeps on going up, and it all comes out of our money.
Yeah, and the markets lent governments the money because governments overspend. They go to the markets and they borrow, and that's where we are. And, that's where we are. And just one thing before I go, that app, I've downloaded it.
Great.
Yeah, you just went a bit girly in relation to how she looks. Julia, who did your cheekbones on that app? You've got.
Have I got cheekbones on that app? Brilliant. Thank God someone's given me cheekbones. Andrew, you can come again. Thank you very much indeed. Aww. Let's go to Mark, who's in Glasgow. Mark, you want to talk about actually what my next guest is going to talk about, the scrapping of jury trials for most crimes.
Well, I've got to tell you, good morning. The idea that after 800 years, getting rid of the one thing that gave British justice its safeguards for its people is absolutely horrifying and disgraceful.
Most countries don't use jury trials. I mean, it's an Anglosphere thing.
Well, okay, where we rolled out across the Commonwealth, or the Empire as it was, the idea of jury trial, those countries, while they still had it, were a lot more free and a lot more liberal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why we've kept it all along, isn't it? I'm with you all the way, Mark. I mean, I think this is properly, I don't say about this many things, but it's probably pitchforks to Parliament time on that. They've got no manifesto, right to do this. They've just got no mandate for it at all. We're going to talk up next to Sir Michael Ellis. He's KC, he's a barrister. He's the former Attorney General, about what he makes of the Justice Secretary scrapping what he said only a few years ago was fundamental to democracy, the right to a jury trial. That's up next. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:35 is the time. Just before we go to our next guest, just some breaking news. Paul Doyle, who had been accused of driving into football fans celebrating Liverpool's victory parade back on May the 26th, he has pleaded guilty this morning on the second day of his trial at Liverpool Crown Court. He's admitted dangerous driving, affray, 17 charges of attempting to cause grievous bodily harm with intent, 9 counts of causing grievous bodily harm with intent, of causing it, and 3 counts of wounding with intent. A jury had been sworn in for his trial, but the prosecution case was due to be opened, but he's asked to re-enter his pleas to the charges. He sat with his head down and sobbed as he changed his pleas. He spoke with a broken voice, wiping away tears as the charges were read to him again. He had previously, of course, denied all the offences. More than 130 people reported injuries after Paul Doyle drove his Ford Galaxy into crowds on Water Street just after 6 p.m. On that fateful day in May. He was arrested at the scene and charged later that week. The charges relate to 28 29 victims aged between a baby aged 6 months old and a 77-year-old. But Paul Doyle has, on the second day of his trial, pleaded guilty to all those charges. We'll bring you more on that, of course, very much relating to next topic, which is that David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, apparently planning to announce next week in leaked documents that emerged yesterday to scrap jury trials for pretty much all crimes, apart from the very most serious murder, manslaughter, rape and other crimes that could lead to a prison sentence of more than 5 years. Let's talk to Sir Michael Ellis, KC, about this now. He's a barrister and former Attorney General. Good morning to you, Sir Michael.
Good morning, Julia.
Thank you very much for joining us. I have to say I was absolutely gobsmacked when I saw this news, and not least because we're talking about David Lammy, who, when he was Shadow Justice Secretary in 2020, he had said that scrapping jury trials, even in the event of an emergency like lockdown and inability to get, juries of 12 people into a room together under those rules, was completely wrong, and jury trials were fundamental to our democracy. Apparently, they're not fundamental anymore. Do you agree with him?
I certainly don't agree with this latest decision. I mean, really, this has all the hallmarks of another mastermind decision from David Lammy. The reality is that, look, the English judicial system and jurisprudence has been exported around the world where democracies thrive. And the reality is that it's one of the things that we have exported very successfully. It's an 800-year-old principle. In fact, it goes back even beyond that. It goes beyond time immemorial, before the year 1189. The reason why it's lasted so long, Julia, is because people understand that it works. It's the best way of getting justice when people are accused of wrongdoing. Prior to that, in this country, we used trial by ordeal, where people expected divine intervention to be the process. It's an absolutely irresponsible decision.
Well, hold on a minute there. I mean, most countries around the world, okay, I agree, we've exported it. I completely agree with you on that front. It's a fundamental right. But most countries don't have jury trials in the same way that the Anglosphere largely does. Do they not have justice, or is there proof that what we do, and I sat on a jury a few years ago and found it an incredibly, really life-changing experience to have done so, and was really impressed with how everything worked. Do they have a worse justice system because of that?
Well, look, I think it's important to remember that of the 193 countries in the world, most are not democracies.
It's a point worth making.
Most of them are dictatorships and autocracies. Depending on how you define a democracy, there's something like 25 or 50 countries in the world that are democracies. So what other countries do that are not democracies is not something really that we can compare to our system. The fact is that here's a government which has said we can't interfere with the ECHR, in their opinion, because that would be a breach of the rule of law.
Of course.
An ECHR which has run out of control in the last 20 years and only existed since the 1950s. Meanwhile, they want to interfere with an ancient principle that goes back more than 800 years. And the Americans, for example, the Trump administration already are concerned about this government and this country when it comes to free speech. This is another impact, an infringement on a fundamental right of the English people.
Well, this is it. I mean, the key thing about this is that we're constantly told that there are massive backlogs. You can wait 5 years if you're lucky enough to actually have someone who's committed a crime against you to actually be caught and charged with a crime, and that's a very small percentage of people. You can wait 5 years, but for cases like things like rape, you're looking at a 5-year wait plus before that person is even brought to court. And very, very difficult also for someone who's an innocent person who has been charged with a crime and having that hanging over them. Certainly the case that I was a jury on, it was 3 years since the alleged offence had taken place, and which seemed an extraordinary amount of time for someone to wait to get justice in either direction. But we're told that this can actually, we can speed things up. Now, Lord Leveson, who was asked to look into basically speeding up the judicial process or the justice process, he looked at AI, terrifyingly, but he also suggested that people who if they faced only more than 3 years or less, they wouldn't get this, but it would be a judge and lay magistrate, so not someone with formal legal training. David Lammy's gone further. You have to face 5 years or more, and only a judge. Why is a judge with legal training who's said they're going to be totally unbiased, why is a judge less trustworthy to make that decision on guilt or innocence than 12 ordinary people who come from ordinary lives?
Well, the first point is, Julia, that this decision to remove the right to trial by jury in almost all cases won't actually affect the backlog at all. What you say about the backlog is absolutely right, and it's unconscionable. Justice delayed is justice denied, and something does need to be done about the backlog. But it's not, anybody who works in our Crown Court system will know, it is not, the cause of the backlog is not because of juries. It's because of a lack of sitting days, because governments have underfunded the criminal justice system and so are not paying for judges and courts to sit. So every day there are empty courts around the country because they can't afford to run them. And secondly, we have an increasingly complex system of evidence because of the advent of so much data on mobile phones, so many more CCTV. So every case, even a simple burglary case, there'll be hours of CCTV footage to go through. So it's the complexity of cases, it's the lack of resources in the estate. Those are the things that are causing the 3 or 4 years delays.
Not a lack of 12 people who can be required to turn up to jury duty. So it's completely the wrong.
A few hours.
So in a way, scrapping juries. I mean, you're not going to get any more money for the courts. You're not going to get any more judges sitting, or more lawyers getting legal aid. So it literally doesn't solve the problem at all.
It doesn't solve, exactly. We don't even pay jurors, as you all know from your jury experience. We pay expenses for travel, but it's not what's causing the problem. This is the irony. If they actually bothered to ask anybody who works in the criminal justice system, who goes to the Crown Court on a daily basis and does these trials, prosecuting, defending, they'd find out that actually getting rid of jury trials isn't going to solve the problem. So not only is it an insult to 800 years of history, not only is it a deep impact on our rights as a nation and as a free people, but it won't even work.
Yeah, I mean, that's even more galling. And again, it is bizarre that anyone would think it would, knowing those basic facts. In terms of the concern a lot of people have right now, we have concerns about two-tier policing, we have about different communities, we have concerns about two-tier sentencing, two-tier justice. Again, I was somebody who was raised to believe in when scientists and doctors told me things, and when police officers did things, and judges did things, that I would trust them. That's my background. I don't trust any of those people anymore because of the last few years. But particularly with judges, we were told last year, we don't have two-tier policing, we don't have two-tier justice, and yet we had a government saying we're going to throw the book at people who were rioting post Southport, and then judges did throw the book at people. Lots of people were, basically fooled and given bad advice to plead guilty to things that they really were not crimes. They were just things people had written on social media. But they were given really harsh sentences, much harsher than other people are getting, even for physical offences against people. And then we've seen some cases involving Southport, people who were accused of inciting some of the riots. No action by them, but literally just physically writing things. And juries have been letting them off like that. I mean, within 5 minutes of getting in the jury room, they go, yeah, not guilty, move on. Is there a case that actually jurors do protect against the politicisation of our judges?
Absolutely they do. In fact, juries also inject robust common sense where idiotic decisions have been made. And they will say, frankly, sometimes we call them in the legal system a perverse jury, meaning that it's going against the weight of evidence. Because a jury will sometimes say, OK, or at least we assume they say, back in the privacy of the jury room, they'll say, well, perhaps there is enough evidence here, but frankly, this prosecution shouldn't have been brought in the first place. Or frankly, this individual's already been punished enough by something else that's happened, and we're not going to convict. And so we have an injection of robust common sense. I too, Julia, am very worried about two-tier policing, two-tier justice. I think we are badly damaging our criminal justice system. I'm concerned about the Crown Prosecution Service and some of its decisions, particularly with regards to the Jewish community. And I'm very concerned about policing. There's a deep controversy about the Maccabee decision, as you know, with the football decision there, and other decisions too. So coming from a former Attorney General, I served as Attorney General under 2 Prime Ministers. I'm really concerned about two-tier policing And that should be an alarm bell, I think, ringing for a lot of people.
Well, indeed. And just finally, I mean, how do we stop this? Because we're constantly told, oh, we need the Human Rights Act, we need the ECHR, because we wouldn't have rights in this country, whereas actually our rights massively predate any of those events. In fact, we gave a lot of the human rights to the world by not just fighting Hitler in the 1940s, but also our values and our systems, like jury trials. But how do we stop this from happening? Because it wasn't in a Labour manifesto. They have no manifesto mandate for this. Can the Lords take action? Can they basically prevent this from happening, given that there is no mandate?
Oh, yes. I think on this decision, the House of Lords will play a key part, not for the first time.
Yeah.
This will be anathema to the House of Lords. This jury decision, it isn't a manifesto decision, as you rightly say. It's a fundamental encroachment on rights. Our rights massively predate the Human Rights Act. We had established human rights in this country generations ago, over a century ago. We don't need a 25-year-old Blairite piece of legislation to give us human rights in this country. Same thing for ECHR. The reality is we're going to look to the House of Lords if the government puts this proposal forward. We're going to have to look to the House of Lords to do the jury's job, if you like, that I was talking about, and inject some concepts.
Isn't that interesting? I mean, very, very strange state of affairs, isn't it? So Michael Ellis, KC, barrister, former Attorney General, thank you so much for joining us. Claire Pearsall, I mean, it is interesting. I largely don't, there are constitutional rules about what the Lords can get involved with. It's a manifesto commitment. Sorry, none of your business. They were trying to stop Brexit, which they had no constitutional right to do, which was outrageous. But on this, yes, please, because, again, there's no constitutional backing. But you have a little interesting tale to tell about young David Lammy, who we know has had issues with drivers, certainly in France, has he not before?
He has, and this continues into the good gates of Westminster, the new security gates. You have to drive through one, and then you stop, and you have to wait before the next gate rises to be able to leave.
Yeah.
Now,
and this is for anti-terrorism security.
New security gates that have been installed, and unfortunately, Monday evening, a Secretary of State's car was stuck.
David Lammy's car.
Didn't handle it well, by all accounts. Was particularly unhappy. Poor driver, it's not their
Shouting
fault.
at his driver,
I understand. I mean, I couldn't.
His driver, who had
possibly
no choice because he's stuck inside.
He had nowhere to go, and these are massive.
You can't drive over these
steel
things.
gates.
Yes.
No, they're huge. He was in a cage basically, and couldn't get out. 15 minutes.
If only we kept him there. But there we are. 11:48 is the time. Up next, going to talk to Reform UK's Layla Cunningham about what we expect in the budget, and she's actually a lawyer herself. Wonder what she makes of the scrapping of jury trials. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, welcome back to the show. 11:51 is the time, just to bring you some breaking news that farmers have been handcuffed and led away by police after they defied a tractor ban to descend on Westminster in protest over that tax rate on rural landowners with their inheritance tax. At about an hour and a half ago, an hour into the protest at Trafalgar Square, officers started to make their way through the crowd, informing them under the Public Order Act they were liable for arrest. Some farmers have already been arrested. Claire, you're a country girl.
I mean, it's just absolutely appalling that you can't arrest people walking along the street chanting anti-Semitic phrases, but you can find the owner of a tractor and nick them instead.
I mean, you are breaching a... Sorry.
Oh, God. No, I'm sorry. I don't think that we need to look at it like this. They just get, just tell them to take the tractor away.
Yeah,
don't arrest them for it.
There is that, isn't there? And again,
be sensible.
Exactly. 11:52. Let's talk to my next guest, Layla Cunningham. She's a Reform UK councillor, and sorry, this cold is really kicking in. Apologies, Layla, as she's also co-leads Reform UK's Law and Order campaign. A very good morning to you, Layla.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
Thank you very well. I'm just trying mostly not to sneeze, actually, while I'm on there. Layla, just first of all, just your reaction to these farmers being arrested.
It really exposes a double standard perfectly. When it's a fashionable cause that they like, the Met rolls out the red carpet, but ordinary Britons objecting to government failures, and they get arrested.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, they are in breach of a protest order, but again, we just see again and again and again, there aren't these orders about other people protesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously political because they don't want them protesting to expose the government's failures the day of the budget.
Yeah, and indeed, the funny thing is, actually, the farmers are kind of saying, everyone's worried about themselves. We're worried about the farmers, but we heard about this stuff last year. People are getting more worried about themselves as well, aren't they? A question I put to my audience today: what's your biggest fear about today's budget?
Is actually squeezing workers, all workers, just because it's the only place left to squeeze. I feel like Labour promised change, but their change is obviously more tax on the people who already pay for everything, Julia. Workers, savers, pensioners, they're all going to be hammered. So she can protect her welfare spending, foreign aid, funding welfare for foreigners, and effectively we're paying for her political weakness.
I mean, a lot of people are pointing out, this is basically a measure to try and save, 2 jobs, hers and the Prime Minister's, maybe the backbenchers too. They may be very pleased with this. They apparently think giving a load of money to people who have a load of kids and can't choose to pay for their own kids by actually both going out to work is a good thing. Mind you, so does Reform on that. I'm going to get that policy changed if it's the last thing I do. I'm sure you recognise what a lunacy that is. But this is the thing, an awful lot of people are saying, look, this isn't actually about growth. It's not about jobs. It's not going to really help anybody who has any role at all in boosting the economy.
No, it's definitely not going to have. But going back to the 2-child cap benefits, we would do it for a couple that is in full-time work. And, wages have been stagnant, Julia, since 2008 because we've imported so much foreign cheap labour. And, if you're a couple who's working, who's contributing, who's doing your bit and you can't afford it, through no fault of your own, through overprinting of money, through foreign cheap labour, then we're there to help you. And the message is, through Reform, that Britain backs you. But if you're definitely not going to get it removed if you're out of work.
Okay, all right then. Okay, well, that I could probably live with, but again, I'm still not sure we've actually got the money for it. We're going to get a press conference from Nigel Farage a little bit later about what their reaction to the budget. He's been in the news an awful lot over allegations about what he did or did not say in the playground to fellow pupils at his private school, Dulwich College, back in the late 70s and the early 80s. He's gone from saying, it never happened, totally untrue, to he may have said things, but it wasn't directed at individuals. They've hit back saying, yes, you did, and now we have more denials. Now, is this going to damage your party's chances? Does this impact on Nigel Farage?
No. Listen, it was whatever happened. I don't know how anyone can remember so clearly what someone said 45 years ago.
I think if I was Jewish and someone told me we should gas the Jews, Hitler was right, if that was what was said as was claimed, I think I'd remember it.
I don't think I'd remember that young, actually. But Nigel's denied he said it. I mean, we've got he's never, people who know him personally know that he doesn't have 1 inch, 1 bone of anti-Semitic sentiment in him or racist sentiment at all.
I mean, that's something I would concur with, having had many, many conversations with him over the years. But these allegations are not going away. Coming back to the budget, though, because that is what people care about at the moment, the pound in their pocket. What would you do differently?
Well, basically, Reform has said that we're sending over 10 billion in foreign aid. I think that should be cut. I think before you send money abroad, you need to take care of your own. And before you come after British workers, the people who save, people who work, people who plan ahead, they're all being punished. Because basically, Julia, if you work in this country, Labour sees you as a piggy bank. So before you come after those people, stop foreign aid, stop paying welfare for foreigners, and increase the NHS. I forgot. We supplement basically foreigners' access to the NHS. I forgot.
Oh, we absolutely do. And again, the pretense that there's a very small number of people is an absolute load of rubbish. They just simply don't bother asking people.
I mean, it's a budget built on squeezing normal people, workers, savers, pensioners. And they say it's a growth plan. I don't see anything for growth. For me, it seems like just panic to plug a 30 billion hole of her own making.
The Office Budget Responsibilities just released their document and they've said that it's confirmed that the tax thresholds are going to be extended by 3 years. I thought it was going to be 2, but all the way up to 2030. Freezing personal tax, employer national insurance contributions, thresholds for 3 years from 28 to 2029. It's going to raise in total, in terms of personal tax changes, almost 15 billion quid. In 29-30. It's a heck of a lot more money that she's going to raise from that. But she said she wasn't going to increase taxes on working people, didn't she?
I know. And then, I'm sorry, but freezing the threshold is an income tax rise. Call it what you like. If you're paying more money to the government, that is a tax rise, no matter what it's called. So I think they've broken a lot of their promises as well. I don't see anything, I haven't heard of anything in this budget that's for growth. You don't create growth. The saying is, you cannot tax your way to growth, and it's true.
Well, indeed, I think that's what we're going to be seeing over the next few years, is it not? Layla Cunningham, Reform UK Council, thank you very much indeed. Claire Pearsall, listening to that. I mean, the Office Budget Responsibility confirming what we basically knew was already going to happen. But, heck of a lot of money going to be raised from these personal tax freezes. But again, it is a sort of rather dishonest way of doing it. But apparently this ABR forecast has been published early in error. I mean, good God, do they do anything right?
I don't think that this was in error. I think this is the OBR punishing the Treasury for all of those leaks about the budget, because they were not happy at the constant leaking out of policies and ideas and spending before the actual budget. So I think this is sort of the accidentally on purpose putting out of the OBR report before the budget, which has never happened before.
Very, very interesting. Well, we shall wait and see. Coming up after midday, we're going to have the latest headlines. We're going to take a little bit of the Prime Minister's questions, clashes. In the studio, we're going to have economist Justin Arcart-Stewart, also former Labour Party spokesman James Mathewson, Claire Pearsall as well, and your calls. Do stay tuned. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very, very good afternoon to you. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Welcome back to the show. Whether you're listening on Talk or on DAB Plus radio or on your smart speaker, watching on YouTube or your connected device, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Very much appreciate that. Just a couple of moments, we're going to go live to those PMQs clashes. Then we're also at 12:30, of course, well, probably realistically more 12:40. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, will be announcing her budget. We will be getting analysis on all of that with my guest in the studio, Claire Pearsall, former Conservative government advisor. Also, Justin Urquhart-Stewart, he's an economist and chairman of the Regionally Investment Platform, there with me in the studio. Also, down the line, James Mathewson, who's a former Labour Party spokesman, certainly no longer with the Labour Party. But very interestingly, and I'll come to you first on this, Justin, we've just had in the last couple of moments before the top of the hour, the Office for Budget Responsibility publishing their budget analysis, their official crunching of numbers publishing early in error, confirming though we're going to see a freeze on tax thresholds, national insurance, income tax, but extended by 3 years, interestingly, rather than by the 2 years we would normally expect.
That 2 years is what we're expecting on that one. So yeah, it's going to this way it's going to get worse, not better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've still got half an hour or so to wait until we do get to. Actually, no, I like with all the budget, but Kemi Badenoch is already standing up for PMQs. Let's go straight to the comments.
With resignations, hostile briefings and leaks galore, even just in the last 10 minutes, an unprecedented leak of the OBR analysis. Unbelievable. Mr. Speaker, these leaks have been so serious that even the former chief economist of the Bank of England has said, and I quote, that Labour's fiscal fandango is the single biggest reason why growth has flatlined. Does the Prime Minister agree with Andy Haldane, and does he have an explanation for this complete shambles?
We all know the biggest shambles in living history, the Liz Truss budget. And what did she say? Did she say, I don't agree, this must be wrong? No, she said, I think Liz Truss is 100% right. 100%. Not much room for flexibility. Not one thing was wrong with it, in her view. So we won't be taking lectures from her. Matters for the OBR. The Chancellor will set out the budget in just a few minutes' time.
Mr. Speaker, we're talking about the leaks. The Prime Minister doesn't seem to appreciate the impact of these budget leaks on the UK economy. Even the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister has said this morning that the leaks were unacceptable. So will the Prime Minister launch an investigation into the budget leaks and punish those responsible?
Mr. Speaker, it's literally about 25 minutes before the budget will be set out in all, where we'll take further decisions. The Chancellor will set it out, but thanks to the decisions she's already taken, we've got 5 million extra NHS appointments, waiting lists are coming down, mortgages are cheaper, we've expanded free school meals. That's 100,000 children lifted out of poverty, a moral mission for this government. Compare that to the record opposite any day of the week.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about the decisions she's already taken. If they were that great, we wouldn't have all those farmers outside protesting. He doesn't want to talk about leaks, but we can see that the chaos in Number 10 is having real-world consequences. Instead of focusing on the economy, they've been fighting like rats. Several journalists reported that Number 10 sources had briefed against the Health Secretary and other senior cabinet ministers. The Prime Minister then told us that these briefings did not come from Number 10. Will he repeat on the floor of the House the claim that none of his advisers has briefed against members of the Cabinet?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I've been really clear about this. No one in Number 10 has briefed against Cabinet ministers. And the Health Secretary is doing a fantastic job. he stood before the electorate just before the last election. He said we'd deliver 2 million extra appointments for the NHS in the first year of a Labour government. There he is. What did he do? Not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 million extra appointments for the NHS. They don't understand this language, Mr. Speaker, because they left everything absolutely broken.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister expects us to believe him. No one does. We all know that he did not have a serious leak inquiry. What he did, Mr. Speaker, was he asked Morgan McSweeney to investigate Morgan McSweeney, and then Morgan McSweeney discovered that Morgan McSweeney was innocent. All of this calls into question the Prime Minister's judgment. All of this calls into question the Prime Minister's judgment. We read this weekend that he wants the former Deputy Prime Minister back in his cabinet. He must have forgotten that she had to resign only a few months ago for tax evasion. When did the Prime Minister decide that lawbreakers can be lawmakers?
Mr. Speaker, while she's scrolling through Twitter, we've delivered rail fares frozen, prescription charges frozen, the minimum wage boosted. We're focusing on the cost of living, the single most important thing for this country. She's focusing on tittle-tattle.
It's not tittle-tattle, Mr. Speaker. We all know that he's only talking about welcoming the Deputy Prime Minister back because he is desperate to shore up his crumbling leadership. But if he were to welcome her back, will he set a condition that she must pay back the £40,000 of property taxes she avoided, the same property taxes they're very happy to put on everyone else, and will she also return her £17,000 of severance pay?
Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the former Deputy Prime Minister is the biggest social mobility story this country has ever told. She started from humble beginnings and fought her way to the very top. I'm very proud of what she's achieved in politics. I'm very proud of everything she's done for this Labour government.
That sounds like a no, Mr. Speaker. I've never heard the Prime Minister speak so highly of people avoiding their taxes. But in summary, this just looks like a government that is a slow-motion car crash. His cabinet are briefing against each other, his MPs are planning for life after him, and the most chaotic run-up to a budget in recent memory is happening on his watch. Even the Chief Whip is telling MPs that he wants out. The truth is simple, Mr. Speaker. His MPs don't trust him, the markets don't trust him, and the public certainly don't trust him. When will he finally accept that the chaos starts and ends with him?
The most chaotic budget was the Liz Truss budget. It did huge damage to our country. We're still suffering from that damage. And what did she say about Liz Truss? She obviously does still think it. When asked, was Liz Truss right? 100% right, she said. The most chaotic, damaging budget there's ever been. And she sticks by it. I'm very interested to see her response to this budget if she thinks Liz Truss got it right. Mr. Speaker, what we're doing is focusing on cutting waiting lists, cutting the national debt, cutting the cost of living, renewing our country, a Labour budget with Labour values, delivering for the British people.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, we're back from the chamber. That was a little brief exchange, PMQs, between the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch. She very much went on sort of leaks about the budget, ahead of the budget, and investigations and all of that. But meanwhile, just moments before we hit the top of the hour, the Office for Budget Responsibility, which basically provides all the sort of the backdrop, the mathematics, the graphs, all the detail of like what the actual state of government finances are, how much is being borrowed, how much is being raised in tax, what's changed, what the state of the nation is. That document, normally published when the Chancellor of the Exchequer sits down at the end of their speech, they published it in error. Leaked email put out in error in advance. So we now know already what is in the budget that is yet, well, we knew from enough leaks from the Treasury already, but we've now had an awful lot of that confirmed. So let's just go through some of it, because basically the OBI has broken the budget. Never happened before. Rachel Reeves is going to unveil £26 billion in tax rises. That's going to leave her with £22 billion worth of fiscal headroom. I think we had 9 or 10 billion last time round. Again, we had £40 billion of tax rises last time round. You remember 25 billion of that was, remember, from the national insurance rise on employers. But this time, 26 billion in total. The tax burden is going to hit a record 28% as a proportion of GDP at the end of this decade in 2031. The freeze on income tax thresholds is going to raise £8 billion, as we already knew, but it's going to lead to 780,000 more basic rate taxpayers, people who weren't originally paying tax. We're going to be dragged into paying 20% tax, and 920,000 more people who were paying just 20% tax on their income. They, at the top end of their income, are going to be paying 40% tax, so that's a hell of a lot of people. The two-child benefit gap is going to be scrapped. There will be a tax rate on pension contributions, which is going to raise a whopping 4.7 billion quid. That's going to be very serious. That pay-per-mile levy on electric cars is going to go ahead. Looks like it's about £3 a mile. That's going to raise £1.4 billion. There are cuts to writing down capital allowances for business. That's £1.5 billion. There will be gambling taxes. We're looking at that raising £1.1 billion. Very crucially, actually, some of the economic figures. Debt rises as a share of GDP by the end of the decade from 95%. I mean, some of the other countries, France and others, are way higher than that, but 95%. It's going to rise, though, to 96%. So we're not going to be cutting our debt at all over this decade. Growth for this year is actually going to be predicted to go up. The whole growth for 2025 is going to be 1.5%. It was predicted back in spring as just 1%. But productivity growth downgraded from a prediction of 1.3% to 1%. I mean, I can't see really very much good news in any of that. Now, joining me for the conversation about this, as I said, is Justin Urquhart Stewart. He's an economist. James Mathewson, former Labour Party spokesman, and Claire Pearsley, who's a former Conservative government advisor. Before we talk about PMQs briefly, because we've got the budget coming up, which we've kind of already heard about, Justin, just first of all, this is unprecedented for this email to go out early, giving basically, well, these are the numbers, so you can work out backwards what the numbers actually are that the Chancellor is going to announce in about half an hour's time.
Well, the Speaker's going to go apoplectic. He actually warned this morning and said, I'm fed up with everybody actually leaking this beforehand. Yep. You tell the Commons first. Yep. That's what you're supposed to do. That's why we have Parliament. Yep. You don't actually do that, and let alone actually release the I
mean, they've recalled the email by all accounts. It was an accident. But, I mean, we've had leaks and leaks and leaks, quite deliberate leaks from the Treasury about various things as well. What is significant about this leak?
Well, it's the lack of control all the way through. We've seen, where is the messaging that you need? Your Chancellor needs to come up with clear, straightforward messages that give people trust into actually what's going on.
Predictability, consistency.
Certainly in terms of the markets. We need to know that actually the numbers add up and they come out clearly, but we need to know that actually what you're looking at and you're actually controlling it in the right sort of way. Over the past 3 months, we've just had this trickle of stuff coming out. Now, they all kite fly different ideas in our time, but not to the extent where we even have an early morning press conference from the Chancellor to actually tell us, big hint, the income tax is going up. Oh, no, it's not 24 hours later. This is just looks as though they're not in control. That just means...
That's because they're not.
Oh, they're not. And who does that affect? Not just people in the bond market, but also a key element to our economy, and we've always been very good in the past, foreign direct investment. We were one of the largest, in fact, we were the largest country in Europe to actually get foreign direct investment.
They think we're worth investing in.
Absolutely.
Got the skills, got the know-how.
And if you're seen actually to be not quite as safe as before, actually, I could do that somewhere else.
That does impact. That impacts jobs, doesn't it? Claire Pearsley, I mean, look, you've worked in the Commons, you've worked, a long time. You've worked in government as a Home Office Special Advisor. I mean, this OBR leak. I mean, again, a lot of people go, well, what do they do? What difference does it matter? But I mean, the fact that tax thresholds are going to be extended by 3 years, not just 2 as we expected, that's another really big hit.
And we're finding all of this out before the Chancellor's even stood up in the chamber to announce that she's doing it.
Do you know what? I'm just looking at her now. Oh, God, she's going to cry again. She's going to sodding cry again. She's looking absolutely furious.
And quite rightly, but even so, you might be furious at this. The OBR and the rest of the financial markets are also furious at the amount of leaks that have gone on.
Because it is very, very important that information comes out at one time to everybody.
Absolutely, and especially when you start to look at the impact it's having on the markets right now, before she's even spoken. They've looked at the OBR. You've got gilt yields which are dipping dramatically. And from what I understand, that generally means that the city doesn't have an awful lot of confidence in the ability of a government to manage the finances.
Okay, very quickly, Justin.
All right, just on the back of this, you'll see, we can't see it yet, the hedge fund trading will be on the back of this. And so, yes, is it actually, will it be causing problems? The answer is yes, it will, because you've taken a financially important information and leaked it unofficially. That is going against every single control that you want to put in place.
Absolutely. Well, look, let's get to James Mathewson. He's a former Labour Party spokesman. You hold no candle, I think it's safe to say, James, for either Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves. But just first of all, on the OBR, before we go to PMQs, what do you make of this? Well, I mean, utter omni-shambles of a budget. All the leaks we've had before, that was what the Kemi Badenoch was asking about, the Prime Minister in PMQs, but also the fact that we've just had the OBR accidentally basically give away the entire budget half an hour early.
Well, that's the story now, isn't it, Julia? That's it. I mean, that's what's written all over Rachel Reeves's face,
isn't it?
Like, she knows she's lost any opportunity that she had to control the headlines about this, or to try and make it about something she's bringing to the table, is now about the fact that the OB. And look, by the way, it's easy to get into conspiratorial thinking with this kind of thing. Normally what these things are, Claire will attest to this, having been in government, normally this is just somebody who was told that one of their jobs today was going to have to be uploaded, not online, sending the email.
Press send. Press send to all the journalists.
But I tell you, I mean, I'm in like 6 WhatsApp groups with former Labour advisors and current Labour advisors.
Ooh. And
somebody's just posted in that about a minute before you've come to me there, saying, in case everybody missed it, with a laughing face. And then the whole thing is there, the whole report. So, even though they've recalled it, it doesn't really matter because everyone's seen
let's send it back. Yeah, nothing happened. And again, I mean, it's extraordinary. And in terms of Kemi Badenoch and the questions that she was asking, all 6 questions really, about the shambles in relation to this government and leaks and, briefings against the Health Secretary Wes Streeting. Interesting, actually, by the way, wasn't it? There was a bit of a pause. Like, was the Prime Minister actually going to say categorically, no one in number 10 has briefed against cabinet ministers? That may come back to haunt him because she wanted him to say that on the floor of the House, because I have a funny feeling she knows that's not the case.
Yeah, this kind of approach from Kemi Badenoch, from the Tory team, I think, was very much don't fall for any traps around what might be in the budget and what might not be. Let's wait till the budget's passed to talk about the budget. For now, just try and keep that narrative going. I mean, I say narrative, it's kind of reality, isn't it, as well, about the fact that everything is just chaos. You've got chaos. The really interesting mention for me was Angela Rayner, because I thought immediately the response from Keir Starmer, you preempt these things. When Angela Rayner was mentioned as the former Deputy Prime Minister potentially coming back, because these are rumours, that's all it is as it stands, rumours. But when he was asked, he immediately went to Angela's defence and said, she's a social mobility success story and all that. Yeah. And she is, but that's weird, because the thing you would say is, why are you talking about the former Deputy Prime Minister? She's no longer the Deputy Prime Minister. But
also, I just don't. I think her story is actually an incredible story of how she's got to where she did get to. But I'm not.
But it's not to do with Keir Starmer.
It's not a reason to reappoint her, though, is it? Claire Pearsall, just what did you make up in terms of what the Prime Minister had to say regarding the briefings against Wes Streeting, defending his own officials? We know there have been Wes Streeting had a full shouty row with Morgan McSweeney, the Prime Minister's director of, Chief of Staff, over this. He's accused him directly. Come on, everyone knows what's happened. You know what happens on the floor of the House. He said on the floor of the House that didn't happen. I mean, you're not allowed to lie on the floor of the House, but can he have plausible deniability?
No, I don't think he can. I think the problem is we've seen this before when Boris Johnson was there and you had the Labour Party putting these elephant traps out for government ministers at the time, and equally they said things which then absolutely held up because they said it on the floor of the House. And Keir Starmer has just walked into a massive trap. Kemi Badenoch would not have said that unless she knew that he was going to be withholding some information.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I come back to you, Justin, and I've got Stuart, because it should be at 12:30, but realistically it's going to be about 12:40. We're going to have the Chancellor of the Exchequer standing up. She's sitting by the Prime Minister right now during PMQs, and she's going to be delivering her second budget. I think we all can safely say her last budget. It's got a lot of bad news. We knew that already from their own leaks and just from where the financial markets are and where we are, GDP and everything else. But here's the thing. Is she going to acknowledge? She's clearly aware at this moment that her entire budget is currently out there. It is absolutely crucial. I mean, if you're going to pull your rabbit from the hat, it doesn't look like there is one, by the way. Oh, and some good news, everybody. Get backbenchers cheering. Or everything's pretty much been leaked already by her office, by her department. But is she seriously going to stand up in a few minutes' time and just announce the budget as if this is all new information when the Office of Budget Responsibility has literally published the entire budget already?
She'll be feeling, actually extremely not frightened, worried, because the market is now reacting to what the information that's out there, and it will be reacting on their interpretation of it. So she hasn't even had a chance to put her side across to it. And so, as far as they're concerned, there will be trades going on. I can't see them at the moment, but they will be. Well,
the markets will already be acting on this. I mean, like 20 minutes ago, they were on top of this.
Managers will have been trading this already, going into various arbitrage positions.
So we'll already know the reaction to the budget before she officially delivers it.
If I'm sitting in front of my Bloomberg screen, I'll be able to tell you straight away what was actually going to be happening here. But you know, it is. There's one word you wanted to get out of this budget. If I were her, and frankly, as a citizen, confidence. Confidence that actually the economy may be slow, but it's actually going to grow eventually. Yeah. And I'm afraid, from just with this one thing alone, blown that straight away.
Yeah, exactly. It is, as the very brilliant Christian Calgary of The Express has pointed out on social media, you know, if you look back a year ago, at least George Osborne actually managed to deliver his 2012 budget and get to the end of it and sit down and people cheering before it was just declared an omni-shambles with a pasty tax and the like. And as he pointed out, we could do with Malcolm Tucker from the thick of it to provide a word bigger than omni-shambles right now, which is where it came from. I mean, I think there are F letters involved.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I think there might be C's and K's, I don't know. But OMG, OBR, Rachel Reeves, you're toast, love. You're toast. I mean, enjoy your final budget. Try and get through it without crying if you can, but it's over. 12:23 is the time. We're going to take a quick break. Coming up, I'd love to hear your reaction. We're going to hear more from Claire and from Justin and from James. This is Talk.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is Talk, the home of common sense. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. The time is 12:26. We're waiting for the budget, but we're not really anymore, because the Office for Budget Responsibility, just before midday, basically leaked the entire budget. Every figure that's relevant has already been leaked long before the Chancellor gets up on her feet, expected in the next 10 minutes to get on her feet. After the PMQ's finished, she's been sitting next to the Prime Minister while he took questions from MPs on the backbenches, but also from Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the opposition, frankly looking like she just chewed on a wasp, not happy at all. I frankly at one point looked like she was just going to burst into tears again, but that's just me being a misogynist. The Office for Budget Responsibility has formally apologised. They've recalled the email. Don't think that's going to work, guys. They've launched an investigation after their economic and fiscal outlook document was published early ahead of the budget. They've described it as a technical error. It wasn't a technical error. Someone just pressed send on an email way too early. They literally had the work. They probably have one of those people who's, you know, those 18 to 20-year-olds who they're going to pay more minimum wage, yeah? They probably just said, oi, Derek, can you, don't forget, you've got to press send. You go, press send, did you say? And he pressed send and it went out basically an hour plus early. So, yeah, there's going to be an investigation. And actually, Justin Urquhart's, you were just saying in the break, you thought the financial regulator might get involved because, of course, this is putting out information.
This is price-sensitive information. We've seen what the pound has already moved against the dollar, and that would have been traded for the past quarter of an hour, and someone would be making nice money out of that.
Unfortunately, we're stuck in a studio and have not been doing that. Let's go back to James Matthews, who's a former Labour Party spokesman, still probably chuckling in your corner. What are they saying in your WhatsApp groups with the Labour advisors now?
Well, it's interesting you were talking about Malcolm Tucker there, Julia, because I don't know if you can see over my shoulder, but there he is. watching our as an inspiration to all political.
The ultimate special advisor in the thick of it, absolutely. Very expletive ridden. But I mean, what are they saying?
Well, at the moment, it's just, I mean, it's kind of a mix between kind of shock but not surprise, I think.
Fair point.
One comment from someone, and I wish I could say who, because it's someone who people might know actually, saying she's done. So
that was me.
That was, yeah. No, it's this thing of just, you know, I think people are just sick of it. They're just done. They're fed up.
The thing is, what's interesting, this isn't Rachel Reeves's fault.
No,
under no circumstances is her fault. But the thing is, when you're just associated with just uselessness, then people are going to blame you. Here's my thing. We're not going to take the whole budget live, really, because we like our audience so much. And also, we certainly don't need to now. We've already got it. And a lot of it's been briefed out already anyway. It's not much of a surprise in it so far as it is, even apart from the freezing on thresholds for 3 years, not 2 years. But the thing is, you know, this is a chancellor who's under so much pressure. Realistically, though, is there anything in there even to please the backbenchers? Because we know she's trying to shore up her own job. But I mean, is the scrapping of the two-child benefit cap, is that enough to cheer up the backbenchers?
It might have been. You had that, and you had the minimum wage stuff that was meant to be kind of, you know, red meat. I mean, it's not really red meat. It's just, you know, kind of simple stuff, really. And it's stuff they've been begged to do by those backbenchers for a long time. So it's kind of just a equalising of the situation. The start, some thought, and somebody I spoke to this morning thought it might be the start of a new narrative direction around, you know, Labour values and all the rest of it. But right now, I don't think anything is going to cut through, even with the backbenchers, purely because of the embarrassment. And look, I will say one thing. I've come on TV and radio and slagged off Rachel Reeves for the best part of 2 years, right? But on a human level, I cannot imagine how it feels to stand up and do what she's about to do.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what everyone thinks already, and you know it's out. It's not an easy task.
She should be better at her job then, shouldn't she? But don't worry, she's the first female chancellor, and that's what matters. Come on, that's what your lot think. That's the problem. Claire Pearsall, Omni Shambles doesn't do justice to this. The number of leaks we've had about everything, the chaos in this government, I mean, it's just non-stop chaos all the time. I believe actually Mel Stride. Let's go to comments very, very quickly, because I believe Mel Stride, the shadow Chancellor, is speaking. Let's go straight to the comments.
This report contains market-sensitive information. It is utterly outrageous that this has happened, and this leak may indeed constitute a criminal act. In Prime Minister's questions, the Leader of the Opposition asked the Prime Minister about this leak, but he refused to answer her question. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, please can you advise this House what steps are at its disposal to force a leak inquiry into this matter? And would it be possible to ask the Table Office to distribute copies of the report given to the House, given that everybody outside of this House has already had the opportunity to read it?
Order! This is not a point of order for the Chair. The Chancellor is about to make her budget statement.
Right, OK, we are just about to get the budget statement, of course, but that was Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, who's going to be responding to the budget, which could already be, I mean, extraordinary. He's not allowed to see it in advance, and everyone else is seeing it in advance. But coming back to you, Justin Urquhart-Stewart, he's pointing out this leak, it may be a criminal act. You were talking about the Financial Conduct Authority involved, but possibly even the police.
Financially sensitive information. If I was actually in a position where I had that information and I was acting on it, I would be maybe up against it for the beak. So I'm afraid the fact that this is in the House of Commons, I don't know what the House of Commons rules are on this, but I expect they're extremely tight. And so, yes, there could be criminal proceedings as a result of this.
I mean, even just if it's incompetence, you still, you know, there we are. I mean...
But it also reflects, again, internationally as to actually what a position. You can't even control your own information coming up.
Indeed. Look, we're going to go a quick break so we don't, we can actually hear what Rachel Reeves says at the very start. We're not going to take the whole thing live. We're going to keep analysis because, let's face it, we've got the entire budget now anyway. I'm wondering if she even acknowledges that there has been this leak, given that it's just been talked about in the Commons. This is Talk. We are the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's go straight to the House of Commons and Rachel Reeves.
Madam Deputy Speaker.
Order! Chancellor.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it is my understanding that the Office of Budget Responsibility's Economic and Financial Outlook was released on their website before this statement. This is deeply disappointing and a serious error on their part. The Office for Budget Responsibility have already made a statement taking full responsibility for their breach. Madam Deputy Speaker, we are rebuilding our economy. Over the last 16 months, we have overhauled our planning system to get Britain building, forged new trade deals with the United States, India and the European Union, reformed our visa system to bring the brightest and the best to Britain. We changed our fiscal rules that we inherited from the Conservatives and raised public investment to its highest level in 4 decades. And in last year's budget, I raised taxes on business and the wealthiest to close the £22 billion black hole in the public finances left by the party opposites. And we used that money to fund the biggest ever settlement for our National Health Service. They were the fair and necessary choices, and we faced opposition to them, from opponents to planning reform, who will always demand that the future is built somewhere else, not in their backyard. Opponents to trade, who want to take us down the path of isolation and division. Opponents to investment, who believe that the only good thing a government can do is get out of the way. Opponents who insist that the only way to balance the books is to cut public spending. And opponents who say that we don't need to balance the books at all. But we made these choices for a reason. Because after 14 years of Conservative government, working people demanded and deserved change. Investment, not cuts to our public services. Stability for our public finances. The single most important factor in getting the cost of living down. And economic growth, the best means to improve wages, create jobs, and support public services. That is what our plan, that is what this government and our Prime Minister are all about. Today's budget builds on the choices that we have made since July last year. To cut NHS waiting lists, to cut the cost of living, and to cut debt and borrowing. No doubt we will face opposition again, but I have yet to see a credible or a fairer alternative plan for working people. These are my choices, the right choices for a fairer, a stronger and more secure Britain.
Order. Far too much noise, and I expected so much better from you, Dr. Luke Evans. You're meant to be a leader in your community. Simmer down.
I'm happy for them to shout as much as they like, Madam Deputy Speaker, as long as they do it from the opposition benches where they can't cause any more damage. I said there would be no return to austerity, and I meant it. This budget will maintain investment in our economy and in our National Health Service. I said I would cut the cost of living, and I meant it. This budget will bring down inflation and provide immediate relief for families. I said I would cut debt and borrowing, and I meant it. Because of this budget, borrowing will fall as a share of GDP in every year of this forecast. Our net financial debt will be lower at the end of the forecast than it is today, and I will more than double the headroom against our stability rule to £21.7 billion, meeting our stability rule and meeting it a year early. These are my choices, not austerity, not borrowing, not turning a blind eye to unfairness. My choices are a budget for fair taxes, strong public services and a stable economy. That is the Labour choice. Growth is the engine that carries every one of our ambitions forward, through stability, investment and reform. The platform from which British ambition can finally get moving again. Because growth doesn't just appear out of thin air. It is built patiently and stubbornly by people who take risks, by founders who bet their savings on an idea, by firms breaking into new markets, developing new technologies and creating new jobs and new opportunities, by the men and the women who work hard every day in all parts of our country. Our Our job is not to watch from the sidelines, but to partner with them, backing them every step of the way, to match private enterprise with public ambition. I would like to thank my team of officials at the Treasury for their hard work in preparing this budget. In the spring, the Office of Budget Responsibility forecast that our economy would grow by 1% this year. I said then that Britain would defy the forecasts, and defy them we have. The OBR have upgraded Britain's growth for this year from 1% to 1.5%, reaching the same conclusions as the IMF, the OECD and the Bank of England, who have already upgraded their forecasts. Today, the OBR have published the result of their review of the supply side of the economy. They are clear that this is not about the last 14 months. It is about the previous 14 years. The legacy of Brexit and the pandemic, and the damaging decisions by the party opposite. Cutting public spending, leaving communities and entire regions behind, starving our economy of investment and weakening our public services. As a result of their review, the OBR are reducing their expectations for productivity growth by 0.3 percentage points to 1% by the end of the forecast. They say today, and I quote, "Real GDP is forecast to grow by 1.5% on average over the forecast due to lower underlying productivity growth. There is an impact on our public finances too. The OBR say that their productivity forecast will mean £16 billion less in tax receipts by 2030. These forecasts are the Tories' legacy, not Britain's destiny.
Order. It is very hard to hear the Chancellor over all the shouting. And Mr. Holmes, you promised me yesterday you were going to be on top behaviour in the first few minutes. Chancellor.
We beat the forecasts this year and we will beat them again. By boosting trade, not blocking it, by increasing investment, not cutting it, by championing innovation, not stifling it, by backing working people, not making them poorer. Brick by brick, we've been building our economy, building roads, building homes, getting spades in the ground and cranes in the sky. Growth begins with the spark of an entrepreneur. Half of new jobs in Britain are created by scale-up businesses, and we want those jobs created here, not somewhere else. Our job is to make Britain the best place in the world to start up, to scale up and to stay. So we're widening eligibility for our enterprise incentives, so scale-ups can attract the talent and the capital that they need. Expanding the enterprise management incentive so more companies can offer tax-relieved share options. Re-engineering our enterprise investment and venture capital trust schemes, so they don't just back early-stage ideas, but stay with companies as they grow. Introducing UK listings relief, a 3-year exemption from stamp duty reserve tax for companies who choose to list here in Britain. And to continue this work, I am launching a call for evidence on how our tax system can better back entrepreneurs, and a targeted review with founders and investors at the heart to make the UK an even more attractive place to grow your business. We are sending a simple message to the world. If you build here, Britain will back you. And our retail investment system should do the same. The UK has some of the lowest levels of retail investment in the G7. And that is not only bad for business, who need that investment to grow, it's bad for savers too. Someone who has invested £1,000 a year in an average stocks and shares ISA every year since 1999 would be £50,000 better off today if they'd put that same money than if they'd put the same money into a cash ISA. And so from April 2027, I will reform our ISA system, keeping the full £20,000 allowance while designating 8,000 of it exclusively for investment, with over 65s retaining the full cash allowance. And thanks to our changes to financial advice and guidance, banks will be able to guide savers to better choices for their hard-earned money. Over 50% of the ISA market, including Hargreaves Lansdown, HSBC, Lloyds, Vanguard and Barclays, have signed up to launch new online hubs to help people invest here in Britain. At this budget, consistent with the commitments in our corporate tax roadmap, I will retain our competitive corporation tax rate, the lowest in the G7, and retain our generous full expensing offer for business investments. I will also introduce a new 40% first-year allowance so that businesses can write off more of the cost of their investment up front, while reducing main rate writing down allowances in line with fiscal constraints. Private investment is the lifeblood of economic growth, but growth needs public investment too. When faced with challenges, previous chancellors have chosen to decrease, delay or cancel capital spending. But low investment is the cause of our productivity problem, not the solution. So my choice is not cuts, not stagnation, but to maintain the additional £120 billion of investment that I provided at the spending review. In transport to link our towns and our cities, energy infrastructure to power our businesses, and housing so people can live near good jobs, paying decent wages and growing businesses. That is the Labour choice. I'm grateful to the Financial Secretary to the Treasury for his work in driving our growth agenda forward. As we allocate investment for the infrastructure that is the backbone of economic growth across our country, today I will commit investment for the Lower Thames Crossing. And we're continuing to drive investment in city-region transport, in the Midlands Rail Hub and the Transpennine route upgrades, along with our commitments to the Northern Growth Corridor, including Northern Powerhouse Rail. It is this Labour government that has overhauled our planning system, and I will today provide further funding to increase planning capacity through a new skills offer, as called for by the British Chamber of Commerce and the Confederation of British Industry. It is this Labour government that has invested in nuclear power, in Sizewell C and in Culham. We are taking forward our commitment to slash electricity prices for thousands of manufacturing businesses, as Make UK and many others have called for. And today I'm pleased to welcome John Finkelton's report, an ambitious plan to cut the red tape that has tied our nuclear industry in knots for decades. And within 3 months we will set out our plan for delivering his recommendations. We are proud of our industrial heritage, and we are determined to build the industry of the future so that we buy, make and sell more here in Britain. That's why, as we increase defence spending, we are investing in Portsmouth, in Barrow and in Plymouth. And I'm pleased to be supporting Team Derby, an initiative to drive growth in one of our defence industry hubs. It's why we stepped in to save British Steel in Scunthorpe and invested in Sheffield Forge Masters. And it's why we've changed government procurement so we can buy British when it is crucial to our national security. For steel, for shipbuilding, and today for AI, driving innovation and building that great industry here in Britain. But it's not just what we invest that matters, it's how we invest. Putting money and power back in the hands of local and regional leaders. Today, we are devolving £13 billion of flexible funding for 7 mayors to invest in skills, business support and infrastructure. I'm extending the business rates retention pilots in the West of England, Liverpool City region and Cornwall until 2029. And providing £30 million for the Kernow Industrial Growth Fund for sectors like critical minerals and marine innovation. I I am establishing the Leeds City Fund, a long-term agreement to retain business rates to fund local regeneration projects like the development of Leeds South Bank, and I am allocating £20 million for the new Peterborough Sports Quarter and £16 million for a science centre in Darlington from the Growth Mission Fund. The benefits of investment.
Right, we're going to leave Rachel Reeves for just a few minutes. We're going to carry on with a bit more of the budget. There's a lot of like rinky-dink, very nitty-gritty things going on. But I just want to get your response because Claire, just about Rachel Reeves. First thing she said, she did acknowledge when she stood up, the Office of Budget Responsibility released the information on the budget on her on their website. She has actually, there's wonderful photographs of her literally reading her own budget being leaked while PMQs was ongoing. She said it was deeply disappointing and a serious error on their part. She said on their part, trying to say, they're going to investigate. Can she just say, look, this is their problem, not theirs, not hers or the Treasury's, given that the Treasury had, I mean, there wasn't much of a surprise in there because the Treasury has already leaked it all already.
Yes, this is now going to be what is going to be the impact on the country, which is what the OBR will look at. And certain details the Chancellor was not going to want out of there until she had sort of managed to gold plate it at the dispatch box. That's her job, to try and give us all hope. It's a bad job.
It's all going very well. I mean, just look at Stuart. I mean, look, we know that the market men will be very busy. They'd have been looking at this since before midday. Yeah. They've been very busy with this. Laughter and jeering, let's face it, throughout this, the first 20 minutes or so, from from Tory backbenchers. I would say a lot of Labour people looking very glum indeed. What do you make of it so far, looking at it as an economist, as a money man?
One of the things I always want to look at in any budget is to come out with the views, right, they know what they're doing. I can see a plan forward.
This isn't going well.
None of this really is fulfilling any of that. And also,
I know she sounded quite strong. I think she's had voice training. No, I'm not joking. She's sounding very forceful in a way that she hasn't before.
She was, well, certain Mrs. Thatcher around that element to it, I can see there. But one of the things we need to do with this is that you focus on the areas, and she's mentioned it, but it's almost beside the point, in terms of the high-tech centres we've got. We're very good at this. Silicon Roundabout, Silicon Glen, Fed,
we're great at any innovation.
But those are,
and then we get bought by America.
Exactly. Now, the bit she was saying, which, again, we had one line on it, which was developing the capital for growth. Yeah, but how's that going to work? What we really want to have is there are things that they can do which does not cost the government anything. You referred to expanding the enterprise investment scheme and things like that.
But again, like leaving businesses to just get on with it.
Yeah, and we do that by way of guarantees, let the market then take that away, and you give people, particularly the business people, the confidence to get started.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, with business confidence, a big issue. Now, growth, I think she said something like 30 plus times last year in her budget last year. We did have a little bit of mention of growth, and she did talk about how there would be no return to austerity, and I meant it. She said she was going to cut debt and borrowing. It was fascinating. She said repeatedly, these are my choices. And then she said fair taxes, strong economy, and strong economy, and stable economy. Talking about stability for public finances. But again and again, these are my choices. Politically, what's that about, Claire?
I think she is trying to manoeuvre herself into a position, if this all goes well, she can stand there and say, this is all on me, the Prime Minister's not going to get rid of her. I think it's a really bad option for her, though, to say that. I wonder how much
he's quite happy for her to take the
Number
hit,
10 has had into this to make sure
we didn't
that
want
there's
to
a
do
distance
except he is First Lord of the Treasury. That is the Prime Minister's official title. But it is interesting what the ABI has broken. I mean, look, there will be a serious investigation into this. But, we're talking at £26 billion in tax rises. She's talking about this £22 billion worth of fiscal headroom she'll now have. Again, these are sort of, it was only 9 or 10 billion before. So if things go tits up, let's be honest, then she's got a little bit more space, won't have to raise taxes. But she said that last year and said she wouldn't come back for more. But it is interesting. Debt rising as a share of GDP, gross going up by 0.5% more than they predicted in March. But I mean, still 1.5%, it's nothing. Productivity is downscaled from 1.3% to 1%. Again, rubbish, given the amount of, given AI, given all the technology we have now, growth is absurd. I mean, with there's really, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going through it all. Where is the good news in this budget?
That's what you need to be able to put in speeches like this, to actually encourage you, say, well, that's good, there's something I can hang on to here. One of the worst figures are interest rate payments. We're talking about 106 billion. If you go back now 6 years ago, that was 50 billion, same as the defence budget. Now, there's only one encouraging element to that. Actually, about a third of our debt, a bit slightly less than that, is actually owned by ourselves, because of quantitative easing.
Yeah.
So rather
We've
perverse.
printed a load of money. Yeah.
And so if you unwind that, so yes, it's a lot of debt, but we're on both sides of the balance sheet. So that's not quite as bad. Nonetheless, the cost of that over the next few years is going to continue to rise. Plus the fact, of course, some bright little fellow called G. Brown Esquire decided to actually link it part of it to inflation.
Yeah.
So as inflation went up, so we ended up paying more.
But there's
It makes you
also
want to cry.
an increase borrowing every single year, the ABR are reporting. So
Yeah.
the government that was telling us that we weren't going to borrow.
So
has
taxes are
made
going
that
to
wrong.
going up, welfare spending's going up. Some of that is
They're-
pensions, which people get older and they're living longer, and that's a good thing.
9
We're
billion.
going to spend more on defence, not enough, not soon enough.
Exactly.
National health. I mean, that's just a bottomless pit of spending again, with no extra. I mean, they said she's cutting waiting lists. Well, not very little evidence of that so far. They're going to cut waiting lists when enough people die. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah,
Who are we
it
kidding?
is.
But meanwhile, borrowing going up as well. I mean, this is unsustainable, isn't it?
It is unsustainable, because what you've got to be able to have is that growth behind it. And we're talking about growth figures here. We're saying we're the best of the G7. This is a snail race.
Yeah. Can I say, she just said net financial debt this year is going to be £2.6 trillion.
Just obscene, isn't it?
You can't
imagine it.
Can't get it on a calculator.
I mean, you literally just keep pressing the numbers and it'll just go. No, let's go back to the House of Commons. But I would say if we're going to be, me and Collins is going to be coming on very soon, and we're not going to be having a news break. We'll get more of you lucky things, Rachel Reeves, even though we've already got the budget already. Big thanks. If we don't get a chance to come back again, Justin Urquhart Stewart, and also to Claire Pearsall. But let's go back to Ms. Rachel Reeves.
Public sector net borrowing is due to be £112.1 billion, or 3.5% of GDP in 26-27, 3% in 27-28, 2.6% in 28-29, 1.9% in 29-30, and 1.9% in 2030-31, ending at £67.2 billion, translating into an increase in the net cash requirement next year of £4.2 billion, taking the total to £133.3 billion. According to the IMF, we are due to reduce borrowing more over the rest of this Parliament than any other G7 economy. The Conservatives crashed the economy, we are protecting it. The Conservatives lost control of debt, we are getting debt down. The Conservatives let inflation and interest rates go through the roof. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, since Labour took office, the Bank of England have cut interest rates 5 times. I've made my choices. Not reckless borrowing, not dangerous cuts, but stability for our economy, security for our public finances, and security for family finances too. Those are the Labour choices. Madam Deputy Speaker, Tory austerity left classrooms crumbling and waiting lists sky high, weakened our productivity and choked our economic growth. And now they propose a further £47 billion of cuts to our public services. Well, that is equivalent to cutting